Assalamu alaikum. I'm Dr. Maham Khalid, the co-director of the academic wing of Ventilators of Pakistan. I hope you all had a good and safe Eid. I welcome you all to the fourth session of our COVEB series, where we will be shedding some light on mental health concerns related to COVID. Before moving on with the session, I would like to request all the attendees to please observe a minute's silence for all the affectees of the blast in Beirut and for our brothers and sisters in Kashmir who have been under lockdown for over a year now. You have all been in our thoughts and prayers, and may God deliver you from your unending suffering. Thank you. Moving on, I would like to reiterate that this session is part of the educational activities taken up by Ventilators for Pakistan. VFP has become a name of its own, not just thanks to the vision of its founders, Dr. Sabai K. Akhtar and Dr. Rabil Tariq, but also due to the unrelenting efforts of all of its members. This week, we would like to talk about the amazing work done by our communications team. It's headed by Dr. Izza Saeed and Dr. Amna Pirzada. The members include Dr. Awais Irfan, Dr. Talia Farooq Marik, and Dr. Mahnood Tariq. The VFP communications team deals with social media queries, coordinating efforts with potential collaborators and vendors, as well as handling new volunteer requests. The team's efforts are primarily focused on serving as a liaison between the organization heads and any parties working with us. The communication team is also working on the VFP newsletter to help keep VFP members updated regarding our upcoming projects, achievements, and developments. Thank you for this message. We congratulate you for your efforts as well. Over the weeks, we will try to share all the efforts the VFP has been making to combat this deadly disease and its effects. Now, without further ado, I would like to introduce my co-director and my co-host for the evening, Dr. Mavish Erkin. Mavish, over to you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Maham. Assalamu alaikum. It is an honor to co-host the COVEB educational series. I'm the co-director of the academic wing for VFP and also the co-founder for Yarden Foundation. My sister Maham Erkin and I founded this organization about a little over a year ago, and with the sole intention to help the marginalized sections of our nation in whatever way we can. We currently have 3 running programs, but today particularly, I would like to shed some light on our mental health awareness campaign, which is run by a wonderful team, the directors of which are Mr. Jala Hayat and Mr. Gurzan Khan, and members include Hasham Imran, Osama Imran, Abdullah Asif, Ms. Saima Tokir, Sarosh Kashani, Iman Rashid, Arij Kashif, Mariam Ali Khan, Ehsan Yusuf, Arij Arshid, and Hafsa Rahman. Of course, no campaign is a success without an exceptional graphics team with Mr. Kamran Khalid as a director and members including Mr. Danish Habib, Ms. Samrar Muzammil, Ms. Marwa Hafiz, Ms. Saima Shafiq, Mr. Sheikh Nabil, and Ms. Shagul Khana. Before the unfortunate pandemic, we would make frequent visits to underprivileged schools such as Mashal Model Charity School in Bari Imam and SOS Village in Islamabad, where we would collectively conduct art therapy activities for children and young adults such as visual arts therapy and expressive writing in an attempt to help individuals experiencing emotional and psychological challenges to achieve personal well-being and improve levels of function. After the advent of COVID, our team decided to shift our focus and energies on helping our community via online campaigns. So we organized social media platforms to raise awareness about different well-known or novel mental illnesses in both English as well as Urdu. And our campaign basically takes on specific mental health themes per week, and they're subdivided into 3. On Mondays, we have Mental Health Monday, where we share general knowledge of this set theme, for example, panic attacks, autism, OCD, anxiety. On Tuesdays, we've given the platform to share people, so people who are actually experiencing these different mental illnesses can share their stories. And this not only gives the aforementioned platform, but also a step towards normalizing these topics in the day-to-day conversations. And thirdly, we have Wellbeing Wednesday, where this subdivision focuses on sharing tips and mentioning how certain illnesses can and are managed or treated. So it lets people know what to expect and how to go about it. I would also like to take this opportunity to particularly thank Rawalpindi Medical University, which has accredited these educational series for all of you to enjoy. Thank you to the Vice Chancellor and the medical education team of RMU. Over to you, Dr. Maham.
Thank you, Dr. Mavish. Now, I would like to mention some personalities without whom this webinar series would not be possible. The patron-in-chief for these series is Professor Emeritus Lieutenant General Mahmood Ahmed Akhtar, Hilal Imtiaz Military, and our patron is Professor Dr. Samia, recipient of the President of Pakistan Gold Medal by Pakistan Pediatric Association. Thank you, ma'am and sir, for your support. Now, with a lot of joy, I would like to introduce my first speaker of the night, Brigadier Mowaddat Rana, who is a gold medalist graduate of the pioneer batch of Army Medical College. He is the chairman of Pakistan Red Crescent Corona Response, has run the largest door-to-door survey of 55,000 households across Pakistan on corona care. He is the member of HEC COVID Committee on Psychosocial Care and Wellbeing. He is also the member of WHO's Technical Committee on Corona Response. He is the chief editor of Journal of Pakistan Psychiatric Association Society, chairman of the Healing Triad Pakistan, chair of Department of Behavioral Sciences, University of Health Sciences Lahore. Dr. Rana is a patron EMDR Pakistan and the founding Secretary General of EMDR Asia. He is an honorary professor at Robert Gordon University, United Kingdom, an author of 12 books and more than 50 national and international publications. He was declared the best university teacher in the field of medicine by HEC Pakistan in 2007 and has been honored with Sitara Imtiaz. His interests include psychotrauma, health professions education, and psychosocial intervention in the field of mental health. It's an honor to have you as a speaker, sir. Over to you.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. I hope you're able to hear me.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm extremely grateful to Ventilators for Pakistan organization who had given me this opportunity to come and share my concerns and in many ways my great area of interest in COVID times on account of my constant and persistent thought process from day one when I entered the arena in February. And my concern was that while we are extremely concerned about the virulence of the virus, corona, and the pathologies that it can create, it's absolutely important that we undertake the relevant public health initiatives required. But as a psychiatrist, I've felt very strongly that the resilience of people, the immunity of human beings towards this virus is an area that needs, if not more, equal emphasis. It is only through our immunological system and counting on human resilience that we will be able to cope with the challenge posed by this threat to human civilization. And therefore, when I was asked by Dr. Sabah to come and discuss or consider talking about a particular topic, I immediately grabbed the opportunity and I said, okay, let me talk to you all about can this area of resilience be discussed amongst all of us. And for that, I can tell you that my real inspiration comes from no other but the great book of wisdom that I know, Quran. Now, the Quran has a surah called Surah Al-Asr. And I'm sure you're familiar with it. It starts like this: وَالْأَسْرِ إِنَّ الْإِنسَانَ لَفِي خُسْرٍ إِلَّا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ وَتَوَاصَوْا بِالْحَقِّ وَتَوَاصَوْا بِالصَّبْرِ. And as a translation, I can tell you that the translation of this surah is that by the token of time, verily, man is in loss, except those, and from here on, it counts 5 different situations or interventions which, when adopted by human beings, can enhance their resilience to deal with this loss. Now, let us keep in mind the challenge of COVID-19 as a probably one of the biggest human challenges that we have faced, at least in this new millennium. So keeping that in mind, and the phrase that verily man is in loss, let us look at the 5 interventions that the surah actually describes. Accept those who have faith, do righteous deeds. And now comes the most important part, and that is, and join together in the mutual teaching of truth, patience, and perseverance. Now, these are the 5 interventions, 2 of which are to be undertaken by an individual in his personal capacity. That is to have faith and undertake the righteous deeds. Now, what do we mean by this? I'll show to you in more detail in a minute, but I'll explain to you what do I mean by this. But from COVID-19 perspective, understand that we need to have a faith that human beings, as the best form of life on this planet, can beat and has been beating challenges that has been posed to its existence over hundreds and thousands of years. And this is not the first time that human race has been challenged for a complete extinction from this planet, but we have fought it. And to have this faith that the creator who created this particular form of life called human beings has given us the resilience, has given us the tools to deal with challenges. To have that faith in ourselves is therefore very important. What has been happening with human beings, particularly as people dealing with the challenge of COVID-19, is that we have started to shake. We had become terrified and extremely distressed and anguished by the challenge posed by a virus. So this surah actually tells you that, come on, stand up and understand that human beings are far bigger than any virus. And to have that kind of a faith in its creation and its creator is what is going to make you feel far more resilient than opting for fear and distress in the face of this adversity. There are few actions that you would need to take. And the entire set of public health measures that we were propagating to each other during this process, including the social distancing, the social isolation, the washing of the hands, how to make sure that we are not contaminated or we are not spreading infections, are those righteous deeds. So if people are going to undertake those righteous deeds at an individual level, they're going to ensure that their loss is lessened. And then it comes up with 3 interventions. The surah suggests, but those 3 interventions are to be taken as a community, by people together, by families, by mahallas, by cities, by villages, and in fact, if you go beyond that, by the entire world as a community. And that is, join together. You cannot fight this challenge alone. If United States of America and United Kingdom decide they're going to do it separately, and Pakistan decides that it is going to do separately from Iran or all other its neighbors, well, you are living in a fool's paradise. Viruses and infections and pandemics do not understand the concept of political boundaries. So therefore, you would have to overcome these differences, these minor differences that you might have around you, overcome them and join in your struggle to fight this challenge to human race. And that is when you join together in the mutual teaching of truth about this infection. What is the reality? Now, you and I know that we have had more than our share of myths and misconceptions and all sorts of lies that have been told about COVID-19. So herein, look at the recommendation that the great book of wisdom is making. When you join together and when you are teaching about COVID-19, speak the truth, nothing but the truth. And when you will undertake this, remember the results that you would have are not going to come in a week or a month. it will take a long time for your efforts to bear fruition. And for those results, you would have to be in persevering and persevering with patience. These are the 5 recommendations: faith, righteous deeds, truth, patience, and perseverance. And therefore, this actually sets the agenda for what I have to sort of recommend to you in attaining resilience. I'll now go into more details and taking up each one of these themes with you in slight more detail. So therefore, the first thing, as I've said, is to understand and to have, if you want to have a resilient mind and a resilient body to COVID-19, each one of us has to have a faith and understanding of the greater wisdom of nature. Now, the greater wisdom of nature means that nature doesn't have just human beings as its members. The entire fauna and flora, not just in this universe and this planet, but in the multiverses, are part of the greater wisdom of nature. And in the arrangement of things, there will be infections and there will be, breakdown of satellites. There will be stars which will disintegrate in this universe. But we would have to understand that all that is happening with some wisdom in the nature's greater arrangement of things. So when a pandemic is there, it is going to cause certain losses, but it would also bring in certain changes that will be of a positive nature. Now, you and I have actually seen that in COVID-19 times, while hundreds and thousands of people have died, and our heart goes out for them, there are so many things that have happened that would not have happened in terms of what has happened to our environment, in terms of its improvement, what has happened to human relationships, in terms of people actually attending to themselves for the first time in their life and to their families while they were in a lockdown. So there are certain silver linings to this cloud in these times. So to have that kind of a mindset when you see an adversity and you see an opportunity coming with that adversity, is that healthy mindset that makes you feel resilient. And it is this healthy mindset that is going to produce an immunological response, an immune response that is going to be far more robust than an immune response of a human being who has actually been feeling fearful and apprehensive and distressed. So I think that is the most important message that needs to be given to the people who are looking to the. I think my camera apparently is off, so I'll try and put that on.
Yes, sir. Thank you. We can see you now, sir.
Okay. So I hope I can continue from where I left.
Yes, of course, sir.
Okay. So that's the first part, that a resilient mind is a positive mind that understands the positivity coming from an apparent negativity. Now, if you move on to the next part of what makes a human mind more resilient, and that particular part is the importance and significance of a mind that has a deeper understanding of what COVID-19 is, deeper scientific understanding of COVID-19's reality. And this COVID-19's reality, it is our duty as doctors and health professionals to tell the common man in the language that he best understands or she best understands. What is COVID-19? It is for the pathologists, it is for the immunologists, it is for the virologists to come and explain to the common man on the media and whatever possible ways and means you can use to highlight to the people of Pakistan what is the nature, what truly it is, not in scientific terms, but in simple terms for an average farmer, for an average shopkeeper, for an average laborer to understand what COVID-19 truly is as a virus. What is a virus? What does it look like? What does it do? And you know what we say when I make this recommendation to people in scientific circles, they say, how would they understand pathology? Now that's intellectual snobbery, as I call it. See, it is our duty. If I cannot explain a concept in simple terms to the to an average man with an intellectual capacity which is not that of a scientist, then I don't think that I really understand the concept truly in my own mind as well. The clarity that you need to give to the people of Pakistan is our duty, a deeper scientific understanding of the reality of COVID. And you would see the moment that would happen, people would get rid of the confusion in their mind, the chaos and the myths and misconceptions that people have about COVID-19 would go straight out of the window, and the bad science would be replaced by good science. It is our duty to do that. And the moment you do that, for the people of Pakistan, you would find a mind that has a deeper and a clear understanding of what it is, to be a resilient mind. And the moment that resilient mind starts to take, hold ground, it will start to then show itself through a highly robust immune response. Remember, those of us who understand the concept of psychoneuroimmunology know that the mind, human mind, talks to the T cells. It talks to the killer T cell. It talks to those beta cells that produce immunoglobulins. And therefore, when you make a human being understand and it gets rid of the myths and misconceptions and doesn't have a clouded consciousness anymore about COVID-19, the robustness of the response, the immunological response, is going to be set free. So that is the second way of dealing with a resilient mind and generating resilient minds. The third, of course, is a mind that is free of what we call technically cognitive distortions. That means having misconceptions in our mind, trying to look at things through a mind that catastrophizes everything, that starts to fortune tell, that magnifies the negative and minimizes the positive. Now, when you and I open, and that was one of the things that was happening to us all the time, that you put up a television show or you see a newspaper, the first thing that will say, number of deaths in the last 24 hours, as if we were looking at a cricket scorecard. Human beings were written like that. Now, why couldn't we come up with a banner headlines saying how many people have survived? And obviously the people who survive are far more than people who die of COVID-19. So it is that emphasis on positivity that would have changed this mindset of catastrophizing, of मर गए, लुटे गए, सब कुछ बर्बाद हो गया, कुछ नहीं बचेगा, क़यामत आने वाली है, ये वही ज़माना आ गया है जिसका जिक्र था, अभी बस थोड़े दिनों में क़यामत आ जाएगी. This catastrophizing, this fortune telling, this magnification of a negativity or of the adversities or the pathologies that this virus is causing is obviously going to reduce the resilience of human mind. The moment the human resilience goes down, the immunological response is going to be compromised. And that is when, people are not going to recover. They would probably fall to the infection far more quicker. So it's just not the virus which is virulent. The virus is competing with the human immunity. So while we can do very little for the virus, we can do so much more for the immunity that human beings have. And that is what the point that I'm trying to make here. The third step. Well, in my opinion, as a former soldier, human beings, when they meet adversity, they need to get into a war mindset. See, this is our war against a virus. The moment human beings get into a war mindset, their performance becomes amazing. All of you remember how Pakistani nation responded to the 2005 earthquake. How are we responding to the uh, to the to the adversities that are being caused to our Kashmiri brethren? That is when the war mindset actually unites people, and the responses of these people become more cohesive, more centralized, more effective. The older generations have seen Pakistani nation in 1965, 1971 wars, how we joined together. Then, and the spirit of the community then enhances to support each other, help each other. As a soldier, I can also tell you that people who are in a war mindset are not anxious people. Now, if you think that if you will get into a war mindset, you become, no, you would not become anxious. In fact, if you go and see uh, an infantry unit launching an operation, you would find them, playing volleyball in the evenings. They'd be cracking jokes with each other while they're sitting in the trenches, and they would be actually laughing as if nothing really has happened. It is a human defense mechanism. So you become far more uh, happy when you are just about to enter war. So a happier individual is a person who is likely to have a better immunological response than a nervous, anxious person. What happens to units that are about to fight? Do you think they just fight on the name of a nation? No. They also fight for the camaraderie that they have for each other. That spirit de corps, that feeling of unity between people. You die for your brethren, you die for your soldiers that you have been eating with for the last several years in the same unit. So that spirit of camaraderie, that state of fitness, that humor, that war mindset are the things that are going to push our immune system to outperform the challenge that is posed by the virus. Now, I'm going to come to my last couple of points, the fourth intervention that I have in mind, and that is that relationships, the bonding of people within the family, with their friends, in their organizations, in the society, and in mahallas. The feeling of being supported by each other actually gives human beings a greater degree of confidence. It gives them a greater degree of happiness and joy. And as I just mentioned, the moment the mind is in a joyful state, it starts to become a better performer in terms of its immunological response. So building relationships during these COVID times is what is going to make us or more resilient. This has to be done at the family level. It has to be done at the mahalla level. It has to be done at all levels. And the moment we make our relationships meaningful, trustworthy, mutually supportive, and loving, that is when you are going to wash hands, not because WHO has instructed, because you want to save your loved one. You want to make sure that if I'm infected, I don't pass it on. Out of that love, out of that feeling of support and trust that the other person you love in your mahalla or in your own family, it is because of that love and support and trustworthiness that you will wash hands and you will keep the distance and you wear the mask. The whole mindset would change. But if you do the same actions with fear, or just because somebody's asked it, or because there is a banner saying don't enter this shop without a mask, that's a totally different ball game. That you are doing out of fear and apprehension. So the same actions, but with a different mindset, and that is when you would find the immunological response becoming and making you more resilient. Ladies and gentlemen, my last recommendation to make your minds resilient: we are not just a body and a mind. So far, I've been talking about an body's immune response, and I've been talking about the mind changes that you can make to enhance the body's immune response. We are also body, mind, and souls. We are souls. Don't forget that. What is that soul that makes you more resilient, that triggers a positive mindset, that triggers a strong immunological response? A soul that is filled with constant feeling of gratitude in adversity. You and I know that in times of war and famine, we bow to our Creator. We bow down to our Creator. In that state of war and famine, we do not leave the sense of gratitude, but a soul that is wounded, a soul that is unhealthy and diseased, it immediately goes into doubt. It immediately leaves its faith. I don't believe in a God that tests us by the deaths and by the famines and by the floods and by the earthquakes. I don't believe in that God. It is then that your real faith is tested. So a soul that feels gratitude in adversity as much as when all the good things happen to him is a soul that has the capacity to generate that kind of immune response that I was talking about to you. So state of gratitude, state of empathy, and what from where I started, to look for the results in long term rather than in a minute or in days. And you have seen that Pakistani nation has fought with that state that I'm trying to recommend to you at this point in time, and we're already seeing the results of it. Most of us remained steadfast. Most of us did the positives, and most of us did have that resilience that I'm talking about, and therefore the results have started to now come in with patience and perseverance. But a word of caution before I conclude: this is not a one-day war. No war is a one-day war. Don't think that the crisis is over, the war is over. No, it is not. It's a crisis that is going to stay with us for long. And therefore, the same mindset, the same soul that I'm talking about, that enhances human immune response and his resilience is what is needed in several months and maybe years that are ahead of us. Stay in this positive state of mind and keep reciting and replaying the meanings that I started my talk with. That is, that okay, we at this point in time in our history is in a state of loss. But what will save us would be the state of faith, our constant urge and demand from each other to do righteous deeds, to remain together in the mutual teaching of truth, patience, and perseverance. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. I'll be very happy to answer your questions if you have any on this
Yes, sir.
concept of resilience.
Thank you. Thank you so much, sir. This was such an insightful session and definitely a different take on COVID and the experiences that I think each one of us have been personally experiencing. So with this, I would like to start the question and answer session. Can you hear me, sir?
Yes, I can. Please. Thank you very much for your comments.
Okay. Yes, sir. Sir, so the first question is, how do we deal with anxiety that comes with living through a pandemic?
Okay, I think first of all, we have to normalize the reaction of anxiety. First of all, understand that feeling anxious is a normal human emotion. This is an emotion that prophets have experienced, that the best of the best have experienced. This is a natural, normal human emotion. So to feel anxious is okay. Now it is, what do you do with this fear? What do you do? Do you freeze? Do you run away? Do you panic? No. It would come as a fear, but we are going to translate this reactive fear, this homeostatic fear, into tangible actions, which would lead to a far more considered, a far more scientifically grounded, and a far more uh, scientifically applicable and practical response to the phenomenon. If we are fearless, nahi, mujhe to kuch nahi hona, oh khair hai. I've seen many people who are in a state of denial of that fear. And therefore, they would walk around wherever they want to without the mask. They would never wash their hands. And, they're probably causing more damage than any good by displaying of this, so-called bravado attitude. This is counterproductive. So fear is normal to have, but it must lead to actions and responses rather than just a fear reaction. And when you will let this fear become start to give impetus to your scientific actions and scientifically grounded actions, you will be able to reduce your fear. All the recommendations that I gave about the scientific understanding of COVID-19 amongst the common people would reduce their fear. Why do we fear the unknown? Because we don't know anything about it. Why are we fearful of the snake? Because we don't really know whether this is poisonous or not. The moment you know that this is a snake that is a rat eater and is not poisonous, you can actually pick it up and wrap it around your neck. You will go and kill it with your shoes, just because you know and understand the nature, the true scientific nature of that snake. If something looks sinister and gives me, heartbeat of 140, becomes, nothing, a reptile, just out of knowledge and understanding. So wherever there is knowledge and understanding of a phenomena, the fear starts to reduce. And the last of all is that when we join together, as in Surah Al-Asr, our fear grows down. When we are alone, our fear increases. So when we hold hands with each other at the level of the family, and as I said, everywhere else, it is that joining together phenomena, that it is not me alone. There are several people who are with me. And when you start to also understand that you have the kind of professional excellence that Pakistani doctors have shown during this period of time, the resolve that they have shown during this fight against COVID, then that also gives people a lot of confidence that fear starts to go down. On the other hand, what we have done through media, we've started to generate more fear through media, because that fear sells. So I think that's the last thing that Pakistani nation needs. You need to show to people the wonderful work that Pakistani doctors have done during this period of time. And that would reduce your fear that I'm in safe hands. And then, of course, a leadership that can speak the truth eye to eye, and tell you what the realities are rather than conceal them, with the concept of patronizing approach to the whole thing. Nahi, inko nahi batana, pata nahi kya ho jayega. So speak the truth at the level of the leadership. Give scientific information to the people of Pakistan. Give them trust about the health services that are available to them. Generate the general knowledge of people about COVID-19, and their level of fear is going to reduce.
That's very true, sir. Sir, our next question is how, and this is from the young, fresh graduates and junior doctors and other people who had opportunities earlier on, but they're now dealing with anxiety regarding an uncertain future because most of them have been laid off, or because educational opportunities that were there earlier are not there anymore. So, what would be your recommendation for them to deal with the anxiety?
You see, we have this मुहावरा कि जब एक दर बंद होता है तो क्या एक दर खुलता है? कितने खुलते हैं जनाब? आपसे पूछ रहा हूँ एज होस्ट, ये मुहावरा सुना है आपने?
Yes, sir.
एक दर जब बंद होता है तो कितने खुलते हैं?
10, I think 10.
100.
So,
उर्दू का मुहावरा है ना, इसलिए आपको याद नहीं आ रहा, अंग्रेजी का नहीं। उर्दू का मुहावरा है ये, तो मैं आपको चले सिखा देते हैं ये मुहावरा आज, कि जब एक दर बंद होता है तो 100 दर खुलते हैं। तो बहुत लोगों को शुक्रगुजार होना चाहिए कि उनकी ये वाहियात नौकरियां 10-10, 15-15 हजार की, जिसमें लोग उनके साथ गुलामी का सलूक कर रहे थे, गुलामों जैसा सलूक रहे, उनकी जान छूट गई है इससे। This is an opportunity when they can start to actually start their own businesses. I think the times of actually Pakistani people looking for jobs is over, as far as I'm concerned. I think everybody needs to get into the mindset of becoming an entrepreneur. That और वो capacity से region के अंदर हमेशा से रही है. You know, I know one of my patients who has started to sell vegetables to her mahalla that she grows in her 3 marla house. 3 marla house. उसने अपने on her rooftop, she has made these old tires she's gone and gotten from somewhere, and she has cut those tires and she has made gamlas out of them, put some she got some good soil from somewhere and she started to sow seeds. अब वो वहाँ पर she's grown vegetables in the last couple of months and she's selling them, and on the average she told me that she's selling vegetables every day worth about 1,000 rupees. And previously she was employed by one of the houses nearby in 7,000 rupees. So she's earning about 25 to 30,000 rupees now. So I think that नौकरियां जो लोगों की खत्म हुई हैं, this is going to open up new vistas and new opportunities in the mind of people. They don't have to be. Remember, आपके हजूर पाक सल्लल्लाहु अलैहि वसल्लम जिनकी हम हर वक्त मिसाल देते हैं, जिनकी तरह की हम कपड़े पहनने की कोशिश करते हैं, जिस तरह की जो उनके अंदाज थे, उनको हमने सुन्नत समझा है अपने लिए, तो वो क्या काम करते थे? Was he employed somewhere? वो तजारत करते थे. So here is an opportunity to actually think of a new set of commerce values, commerce areas that you can actually start to explore now as people of Pakistan, and not just locally in your mahallas, go international, and sky is the limit. So I see it as a huge opportunity. Thank you very much कि आपने नौकरी से निकाली. बड़ी मेहरबानी है आपकी.
Right. That's very true. Okay, so the third question is, what is your advice for people who are living alone or without a support system? Maybe they're stuck abroad, or any other situation where they're alone.
See, I think the greatest gift of our modern times is the gift through which you and I are having a conversation right now with our viewers, isn't it? So it is this opportunity that is keeping us connected. So whether you are in UK or you're in America or wherever you are and you're feeling lonely, we're all connected now, and it's a lovely feeling. I think the one of the things that the older generation, our generation, used to tell our children, ये क्या हर वक्त फोन पे बैठे रहते हो, क्या इंटरनेट मुसीबत की हुई है. Now we have realized the importance and significance of internet, the world of internet, and the advantages that it brings. All the negativity that people from my generation used to have for internet is gone, and it will change our relationship with our children now, that because it is now connecting us with our loved ones who are stuck abroad or living in isolation. It has shown to us what all good internet has brought in our lives. So I think we are still connected, except the only real difficulty has been when you're living alone but doing nothing every day. That is a disaster. So we have to remain active physically, psychologically, and socially. The moment you understand the importance and significance of activity in preference to being a potato couch or a couch potato, whatever you want to call, as your choice of life in COVID-19 time, that's a disaster. That is when depression and anxieties and all sorts of other difficulties. Go get up, do stuff. And when you will be physically active, you would find yourself feeling much, much stronger, much, much healthier. And probably you'd come out of COVID-19 fitter, stronger, and resilient.
Yeah, that's true. Sir, so the next question, sir, is that for people who have elderly people at home, for example, their parents and their elders, I think the anxiety that they feel is often not for themselves but for their family members. So how do you suggest that they deal with this? And there are people who've tried praying and meditation, and it's not working for them. So what is your advice for those people?
I think sometimes we start to love, but we love with making our love into a pain for the people we love. So this overprotective way of dealing with our elders, with our vulnerable members of the family, is a disaster that I've seen in the last couple of months. See, with the concept of social isolation in mind, we've actually completely isolated those people. Put them in a room and forget about them. गए, उनको खाना दिया और भाग के वापस आ गए और आके फिर हाथ धोया और asked them to keep washing themselves every day. Remember, you see, these people cannot be abandoned. You have to remain in communication with them. So after maintaining a certain protective mechanisms placed in the house, we need to communicate with them. We need to stay in touch with them. And I can assure you that they would love to participate in the activities that you're now doing and use their wisdom and experience in what I was talking about earlier. While you're setting up businesses, while you're showing entrepreneur skills, these are the people who would give you excellent advice and may identify certain areas for you. Third thing is that there are several types of communications that they are capable of making with you that we have never looked at. The quality communication that our elderly can have with younger children. So while you're engaged in setting up your business, let the elder ones take care of the younger ones. And that is when this interaction is going to make your younger lot respect and learn from the elderly as well. So connect them. And that is when this connectivity doesn't have to be at a physical level, but this connectivity is in terms of communication. So it will increase resilience both in children as well as in the elderly when you would engage them into a relationship, a social relationship of loving each other and caring for each other.
Thank you so much for that, sir. Sir, the next question is, can you recommend any books or videos to watch to better our mental health during this time?
Well, I'm actually quite anti-books in these times. I think sitting in a corner reading books is probably this is not the best time to do it. As I said, you need to be in a wartime and a war mindset. And in war, we usually do not sit and read books only. I think this is time for action. This is the time to actually bring into action what we have been reading in the books. This is time to connect and interact with each other. I'm not against the books. My room is filled with books. I love reading books. But this is the time actually to do. बातें करना जैसे मैं करने की कोशिश कर रहा हूँ ये काफी नहीं है. We have to do. So even if the books that you're going to read are the books that you need to read, which will equip you to start a business, to learn a skill, that is the kind of book that I would recommend everybody to read, which teaches you a skill and not a skill which is just a pastime or a hobby through which you can generate funds. And that is when a household which had only one person working can now become a household where 10 people are working. All the 6 children are working. The father and the mother are working, and the father-in-law, mother-in-law are working. All 10 of them are working now. So when they become skilled and they start to work together, whatever book that gives you a skill is probably what I would recommend.
Right. Thank you, sir. Sir, the next question from Ms. Maliha Saqib is, how can one deal with the mental challenges that come with actually getting diagnosed with and going through COVID?
The actual challenges posed, I think, are more again to do with the isolation phenomena. So understand that you are socially isolated. You are living in a room away from people, but it doesn't mean that you don't talk to them. It doesn't mean that you never let them in. This is not plague, for God's sake. So social isolation doesn't really mean that you stop to communicate with them. Take precautions, but remain in action. And I think keep contributing, as I said earlier. What I've seen is that during these COVID times, there are several universities in the world who've opened up free courses to people. Those courses are about skills. They're also about knowledge. It's also about various kinds of business ventures that you can undertake. So while you are sitting there inside, activity is the name of the game. Don't sleep your heart out. How much can you sleep anyway? So, I've seen people during these months sleeping for 18 hours, you know. So you can do that maybe once or twice or thrice, but you cannot do that over a period of months at end. And now that everything is opening up, there'll be more opportunities. But people who are inside still suffering from COVID, please do not become inactive. When you're inactive and you're not exercising physically and you're not mentally connected with the rest of the world, you're not in a positive mindset, that is when your immune system is going to go off. You want it on, because the fight is on, the battle is on. Therefore, stay active and positive.
This question strays a little bit away from the topic that it's about mental health, but it's asking which antidepressant is effective in COVID patient, also in a post-COVID patient.
Okay, I for one, actually, I'm quite against the use of antidepressant anxiolytics in COVID patients until and unless I have actually clinically diagnosed a patient with uh, depression as a disorder. Remember, being anxious and being depressed in COVID-19 times can be a normal mood reaction. It can be a normal effective response to the challenges that COVID-19 is giving to a family or to an individual. So we have to understand that I hope it is not a bereavement. I hope it's not a state depression as a reaction to some death that has taken place of a loved and a dear one, and that the person fulfills the criteria of depressive disorder before I can use an antidepressant. And I think online, we should not be recommending antidepressants to people. Certainly, it has to be a clinician who should assess an individual whether that individual requires a particular type of antidepressant and fulfills the criteria of this as being a disorder.
Sir, the next question, I think that we've answered some of it, but it's about when you're stuck in a negative environment, and especially around people who are might have a negative approach towards COVID. How do you influence them to be more positive when you're around them?
Well, I think one of the things is that you have to understand, why are these people negative? They often are negative because of the lack of information, the myths and misconceptions, and all these, you know, bad science material that they're carrying in their mind. मैंने वो वीडियो देखी थी, वो तो पता नहीं क्या कह रहे हैं कि ये तो CIA का एक गेम है जो हो रहा है, एक्चुअली तो वायरस है ही नहीं. All crap that we've been listening to through various kinds of fake news, strange videos, without really understanding it scientifically. So I think it's important to get into a discussion with these people and say, okay, when you have concluded what you have concluded, what is your resource? Where have you learned all this? And then replace their myths and misconceptions after having heard their perspective with good science. So the moment you will give them good science in an understandable, regular way of making them understand what issues really are as regards COVID-19, I think most people are not likely to stay negative.
Yes, sir. Sir, another question from a physician's point of view. So Dr. Maliha Saqib is saying, what are your recommendations for doctors who have worked or are working in COVID wards? How should they deal with the mental stress that comes with dealing with the immense loss of life that they have seen? And how should they deal with this feeling in the future?
Okay, I think very important question, very important. And we've recently run a survey, from the Pakistan Red Crescent Forum, in which we were looking at burnout amongst our health professionals, and we had a significant number of them. I would not be able to give you the exact figures because the data has not been analyzed, but from the rough guesstimates that we are making, there are at least 20 to 30% of health professionals who are in a state of burnout. What she's referring to is a state of burnout. So you need to start to fill forms that are readily available now on the WHO websites as well as on Google regularly to detect burnout amongst our health professionals, and make sure that we connect them to the mental health professionals immediately. And this connectivity between mental health professionals and health professionals is probably, this is the time to do it. So go through these tests yourself. They're psychometric tools, so you can you just download them. They're free. Tick, and if you're testing positive on burnout, and being stressful, connect to a mental health professional as early as possible.
Thank you, sir. Sir, the next question is by Dr. Amna Chaudhary, and she's saying, how should you manage anger due to COVID or frustration?
See, anger management is a topic in itself, and it's a big thing. At some point, I'll be very happy to come back on this forum and discuss anger alone. But anger often also is something that you can deal with on a daily level through translating anger, number one, into verbalizing. You see, most people who get angry either become emotional by showing emotions through their actions towards others, or actions towards themselves, internalizing the anger. Both are counterproductive. Start to verbalize. Find somebody with whom you can verbalize your anger. That's one. Two is the same center, the anger center is the same center that you can use in sports. You can see how angry a fast bowler is when he's bowling, and how angry a footballer is when he's playing. So it means that the anger center is on. But what is he doing? He's channelizing that, he's sublimating that in a play field. So you can do that, and if you cannot get out of home, do it on a video game. So but do channelize it. And the last of all is some excellent artwork in the world, some great poetry in the world has come out of, a lot of creative pursuits have come out of these emotions of fear, depression, and anger. So you can actually turn around these emotions into creative pursuits, and that is when your anger is also going to go down.
That was a very that was an amazing answer. I think everybody can apply that in one way or another. Sir, okay, so this is the next question. It's what is the best way to deal with people who are in a state of denial about COVID?
Uh, denial actually is again a normal reaction, and people who when they're facing adversity, uh, one of the human responses is denial. So most of all, when you are in a state of denial, please connect with other people. Talk to other people who are your loved ones, who are significant others in your life. And that is when, through that connectivity, you would find that your denial is going to give way to a greater degree of understanding of the reality. And you would know more about what has really happened. And this connection with reality and truth is what is going to reduce the degree of denial that people are in. And people also tend to use denial to fight their fear. So if you understand that being fearful is normal and healthy, it's okay to be fearful. Bravery at best is a denial of fear. So don't think that being fearful means कि मैं बुज़दिल हो गया हूँ. So I must now मूंछों को ताव देना, and I must come out all sando, saying I've done that. No, accept fear, embrace fear. And that is when your denial is going to start to go away, to accept reality and to understand that this is normal human reaction to a situation.
Sir, the next question is a bit
Dr.
analytical.
Rizwan Taj is going to be very unhappy with me. I hope I'm not eating up his time.
Just a few more questions left, sir.
Okay.
So do you think, so Ms. Iman is saying, do you think
do you mind? Sorry, do you mind if I connect my phone with the charger, because it
No
might
problem.
just
No
go
problem
off.
at all. Yes,
So if
no
you just
problem.
stay with me for a minute, I'll connect you.
Those were very good answers, and I think we all can agree about
Okay.
most of
Yeah,
them.
we can restart now. Yes, sure. Please go ahead with your
Right.
question.
Yes, sir. So Ms. Iman is saying, do you think us Pakistanis have benefited from being in a strong connection with religion and mental health, especially in this environment? And then there is a lead-up question as well, but you can answer this one first.
Uh, see, as a scientist, I'm no expert on the importance and significance of religion in our life. But what I can tell you is that religion can be used as a huge resource for building resilience of our soul. And one of the recommendations that the religion gives is on the lines of what we've been discussing through Surah Al-Asr. Now, when you're looking after fellow beings' body and their mind on a daily basis, and you are connecting with people who are vulnerable, who are less fortunate than you, I think that's a great religious pursuit. But it is also a great human pursuit. So I think this is the time to actually bridge the gap between religious bigotry, uh, to be thrown out, and connecting religion with humanity, the the human face of it, the tolerant face of religion. That is what is going to make us more resilient to COVID-19 phenomena. To actually use religion to catastrophize COVID-19, to start to use religions, some understanding of people, to start to tell the world that this is end of times, qiyamat aane wali hai. To use religion for statements like कि अल्लाह मियाँ हमें सजा दे रहा है through COVID-19 infection. That is probably, I can tell you, as a student of human behavior, is not the way to go as far as dealing with COVID-19. That is not going to enhance the resilience of people, because that is just catastrophizing and fortune telling about the future. And that negativity that you're going to generate in the name of religion is not scientifically grounded in terms of its impact, possible positive impact of religion on people.
Right. And sir, another question. I think this is going to be the last question of the session. We've already discussed exercise as a means of, as a practical tip, but what would be other practical tips for remaining positive if you're stuck in a negative home environment?
Uh, I think this particular time in our life, when people are more connected and have more time for each other, is a time to go deeper into our relationships and try to discover as to why an individual is negative. Why is the environment in a household negative? This is the time of analysis. This is the time of getting close to people who are negative. You see, what happens is that we often leave the people alone who are negative, and you are therefore fulfilling their prophecy. देखा, मैंने कहा था ना, लोग मुझे पसंद नहीं करते. देखा, लोग मुझसे नफरत करते हैं ना, तभी तो हर कोई मुझसे दूर होता जा रहा है. So when you do that, you actually increase, or you feed into the negativity further. In the name of, I'm trying to isolate myself, I'm trying to be away from negative environment. So don't resign to the negative environment in a home. Just try to understand that this is the time to actually
I think
I
that
think
his
we
dropped a bit.
the phone. Yes, I think we
Yeah.
disconnected. I think that was a very, very healthy conversation that we all had, and I'm pretty sure the participants, because I personally really enjoyed all his answers and
I
everything he
think
had
that
to
the one
say.
thing that I would like to ask him is not just about the stress of doing something, but also the stress that you feel about not doing something. For example, a lot of people touted this
Mm.
time as the best time to get your studies in, your research in, to study for your exams. So I would have loved to know his thoughts on how to deal with that stress where you're not being that productive. I believe that a lot of us have had to deal with that where we were told that this is the time when we can finish our studies or finish that write up that we wanted to. So that would be, I would love to have his perspective on that. I think
I
he's
think we
back.
can ask him now.
I think I was offline for a
Yes,
couple of minutes. So can
just
you
for a
repeat
little.
the question, please?
Yes, sir. So, how should you deal with the stress of productivity? So, because this time has been touted as the time to finish our researches and to study for the exams. So, for a person who's unable to do that, how do you suggest that he deals with that feeling of being unable to do things because of the stress of the situation?
Okay, now I think when we say stress of not initiating things, we're probably referring to the procrastination that starts to set in amongst particularly students when they, with their, when they feel as passive as most of our students are made to feel in schools and colleges. So I think this is the time to actually discover the importance of you being a proactive adult learner who is not doing things just as a task that is assigned or as a homework that has been given, that you are trying to do things primarily in terms of trying to gain knowledge and understanding and gain skills and change attitudes by becoming a learned individual. So this is a time when you can overcome procrastination and become an active learner, a proactive learner, rather than a passive learner who does assignments as homework only. You're far more grown up now than a nursery child or a primary student who does things just to please his teacher or to get grades or to make her mother or his mother happy. Uh, this is the time to actually understand that whatever tasks you have taken up for yourself in your pursuits of education are the tasks that is going to define you in the future, and therefore you're doing it not because there's a compulsion for you to do it, because it requires a particular kind of grade that you must score, or an approval or a nod from somebody who's your significant other. It is because you are important to yourself, and you cannot continue to make yourself fool and foolish about showing that you know when you actually don't. So I think that is what a true learner is. He does things primarily with a long-term perspective in mind to urge and equip himself rather than to please others. This self-motivated learner is a pursuit that all learners and students need to have right now.
Right. Thank you so much, sir. I think that this session has been very enlightening and beneficial for all of us.
Thank you so much, sir. I think Dr. Maham's having some connectivity issues, but I'm honestly, personally, and I'm pretty sure all of the participants have really enjoyed all of your answers. It really enlightened us with a lot of information, a lot of things to think about. I know for sure that I will be thinking about a lot of things after the session concludes. And thank you once again for taking out time from a very busy schedule, sir. It really means so much to us. Thank you,
Thank you.
sir.
Thank you. Thank you
Thank
for
you.
giving me this opportunity. I'm truly honored. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. The honor is ours. Thank you. I would now like to, Allah Hafiz, sir. Hafiz. I would now like to introduce our second speaker for tonight, who is Professor Dr. Rizwan Taj. He is the head of psychiatry at Pakistan Institute of Medical Sciences, the principal of Federal Medical College, and dean of medicine and allied. He has more than 32 years of experience in the field of psychiatry. He has a special interest in treating mood disorders, obsessional disorders, and other major disorders of mental health. He is also trained to treat drug addiction, social, marital, and personality problems. Professor Rizwan Taj graduated from COVEB Medical College, Peshawar, and he completed his postgraduate qualifications, which include DPM, MRC Psych, FRC Psych, DMMD, and DCP from the United Kingdom. He is the bioethics chair of the United Nations Educational, Scientific, and Cultural Organization for Pakistan, the focal person for mental health at National Health Services and Regulation, fellow of Royal College of Psychiatrists, UK, and also an international distinguished fellow of American Psychiatric Association. Please allow me to welcome Professor Rizwan Taj to shed some light on a very important aspect of our health. Dr. Rizwan, please.
Thank you, Dr. Mavish. It is always a pleasure to listen to my friend Mowaddat. And every time I listen to him, I also learn something new. And it's also a pleasure to see how he says things in the words he creates. So it's a tough job for me to follow in his footstep now for my second session. But my session is more practical than philosophical. And as the topic that you've given me, I would want to talk about this. And I want to, just the part that is missing from my introduction is that I've been involved with the COVID response mental health since day one from at the Ministry of Health, even when no patient was there and they were expecting flights from China and they were planning how to deal with the mental health issue. And since then, it's moved on towards mental health, towards health professionals and how to look after them, what kind of policies to create at the NCOC level and the ministry level. And in doing this, we have done a lot of workshops and trainings and sessions for doctors and nurses. I personally have been responsible for Islamabad territory, so we've been doing it for Shifa and for PIMS and all that. So what my topic is that what kind of advice I can give to make our our medical professionals feel better, our doctors feel better in these testing times. Now, what has happened is that an event has happened in the last few months, which none of us expected. And it has really turned our lives upside down. And everyone and anyone has been affected in the world and in Pakistan. And the professionals who are most directly affected from this is the health professionals and the doctors, the nurses, the paramedical staff. And they are the ones who have taken the brunt, the challenge, the despair, the horror, the anxiety, the panic, the fear that they have seen and they have absorbed. And certainly this has a cost to them. And when we talk about the cost, this is the cost of the mental distress that they feel and they go through and they see and they fear. And this is not about zehni bimari or mental disorder. This is about mental health. So we are talking today about the mental health of doctors and how we can look and improve and somehow help them create a better life for themselves. And this is what we are going to talk about. So as you know that the virus will affect only a small portion of the population, and a very tiny 2 to 3% will be seriously affected. But the pandemic of the mental health will affect at least half of the population. And in terms of the sample size, the doctors and the nurses and the paramedics will be the most affected in terms of mental health. So we have to see how we can absorb that shock, and we can help our doctors function better, save themselves, save their families, and lead at least a reasonably normal life with the realities around us. Now, the first thing is that we are still not out of this pandemic. Now, there are good news in the past 2-3 days, but as you know, the COVID center for Islamabad is PIMS, and I know each and everything that is happening. So we are still in the struggling phase. We really don't know what's going to happen. This is the unpredictability of the situation, which makes us more distressed. And we'll know probably how things are within the next month or so. So let us not, as health professionals, let our guard down, and let us be prepared for any challenge that might come in the future. So let's take up the first slide. Do you have my slides there? Yes, please. Next. This I've already discussed. Next, please. So why are we important? Because we are not just a tool to treat people. We are also somebody's child, somebody's parent, somebody's sibling, somebody's friend, somebody's colleague, somebody's doctor. So what this slide shows is that we matter because we are also human beings. We have a life, we have a family, we have friends, and we are not just a doctor, we are more than that. So it matters what we are and how we live our life. Next, please. Next, please. So William Osler is the founder of Johns Hopkins University, a Canadian medical specialist, and he's the one who started the bedside training programs for trainees. And this is in the early 1900s, so more than 120 years back. And this were his famous words, that doctors are so involved in their professional careers from late to soon that they forget about the issues that make worth life living. And these were his golden words, which are more true now, that we, in our quest for professional careers and success in careers, we forget our own selves and we forget about the influences which make life happier, worth living. Next, please. So we as physicians, from the moment we enter the medical student as medical students, we are taught to identify ourselves by our minds and our patients by our bodies, and we have a feeling of omnipotence and invincibility. But we don't understand that at the same time we are also humans. We are not superhuman. We are vulnerable to the same distresses and stresses as anybody else. So the first thing is to accept that we are humans, accept that we are not perfect, accept that we are vulnerable to the all the kinds of stresses, pressures, distresses as everyone else. Next, please. So, all the studies that have been done on doctors have revealed that they are obsessional, they are perfectionist, they are anxious, they are self sacrificing, they have low tolerance for uncertainty, they are dynamic in terms of replacing their own needs for those of their patients, and they have difficulty in coping skills and with emotional expressions. And all this reveals that this is the foundation for a mental health issue that the doctors can easily develop, and the fact that they will deny it and they will not seek help is the worst part of it. Next, please. So this is Oscar London study that managing stress for doctors is one of the most difficult part of practicing medicine. So what this means, when it comes to ourselves, we are very casual, we are very dismissive, and we do not accept that we can be affected or we can be mentally unwell or distressed. Next, please. So the pressures we are facing at the moment, they are the primary pressures that we are facing directly because of COVID work, that we are fearful that we might infect our families, our children, our friends, our and or we might get it ourselves while we are at work. Those are the primary stresses that we are going through. And then we have the secondary stresses where our lives are limited to the hospital and to the home, where we have to continue with our life. At the same time, we have problems that we are so much distressed that we see our families under pressure and we are worried about them. We are worried about finances. We are worried about a host of other issues. But the most interesting study that has come, I've read about 50, 60 papers that we did. This is about touch deprivation. What it has shown is that because we are not shaking hands, we are not hugging each other, we are not giving each other positive responses in terms of physical interaction, we are really putting ourselves into more anxiety. So the most important study is about touch deprivation. So the more we deprive ourselves from touch, the more anxious and depressed we feel. And this is actually been studied in detail, and they show that when we touch each other, we hug each other, the oxytocin hormone, which is called the cuddle hormone, is released, and that we when it's deprived, the body is deprived of that, we will suffer problems. Then we have other problems, like our lives is limited to our homes, and we are going through our classes or interactions through the computers and everything else. And it is not just us. So if I take just myself, in my home there are two or three rooms which are being there are two or three offices which are being run in my home only, and it is a invasion of privacy, and it is a source of pressure on the family system, where the offices, the work is being, all of it is being done from home. Then we have the background stresses which are still there. We might have had some problems of, we had to arrange some weddings or whatever, or we had some financial problems, or we were going to build a house. So those background stresses are still there. So that will also affect our uh, lives. And then we might have had plans to go abroad to present papers or to do some international research or whatever. All that has been curtailed. So it has really caused our lives to be limited, our plans to be shelved for the moment and limited, and our lives to be affected to a certain level that now we are getting disturbed, that this is happening for too long, and our lives might not return back to what it actually was for years. Next, please. Next, please. We need to understand that the pressures we face, if we don't deal with them, do not just disappear. They keep on adding up. So if we are in a state of denial that we just discussed, and we don't accept that we are going through these pressures and these stresses, they will keep on adding up and we will face problems. Next, please. So the bottom line is that we need to be healthy physically and mentally to keep the demands of a competitive and highly demanding life, which our doctors are facing at the moment. And we must understand that we are vulnerable as human beings, and it's okay to not feel okay, to feel distressed, to feel upset, to have a sleep problem, to be irritable. All these are normal reactions. It is important, again, not to pathologize what are normal stress reactions a physician goes through because of the demands of the work and the home environment is placing on him or her. Next, please. Now, the first thing is you need to remember that all of us are different. It could be our genes, it could be our environment, it could be our social support system, it could be our experiences that we have had in our lives. This all makes us a different person from A to B to C. So everyone is different. So everyone responds differently to stress. Somebody will run away, somebody will become quiet, somebody will start crying, somebody will keep himself to a corner, whatever the situation. So you need to understand that everyone, every doctor, every nurse is different. Every nurse or doctor's coping strategy is different, and how they react to stress is different. Some of us are very resilient and very strong. We are able to cope with any kind of pressure that comes to us. Most of us can't. And that is to be understood, that Mr. A is not like Mr. B, Mr. B is not like Mr. C. So when we are trying to understand somebody's reaction, we must understand that he probably might is more sensitive than A, B, C. So again, very important to individualize the whole situation, that this person is different, this person is different, this person is different. Next, please. Next, please. So first, you need to understand that you need to, if you want to make your life better and you want to make a change, you need to accept that there's room for improvement, and you need to check what can be changed. So you, in life, you face two kinds of problems: those that can be adjusted and changed or modified, and those that cannot be changed. If somebody dies, or if you have a problem with the job or something like that, that might not go away, but other things you need to look which can be modified or changed. And that is where the solution to the mental health issues is lies, the areas that you can change and decrease the stress level and increase your health, mental health. So the first thing to do is to analyze your stresses. Go to work, go home in the evening, and look at all the problems you have been facing for the say last 1 week, and look at the things that you feel are pinching you, and you look at the things that you can change and you can modify, and then work on them. And then first thing in the morning, you need to every day plan your day, that this is what I'm going to do from this time to this time, this is what I'm going to do from this time to this time. So if you have to go to work, you can't change that. You have to go, you have to see patients, you have to deal with every kind of problems at work, that you can't change. But there are other things that you can change. So you look at the things that you want to modify, you want to improve, not disprove. So the first thing is, in the morning you get up, you plan your day, that I'm going to do this, and try to follow that. Try to keep to that routine that you have planned in the morning, because when your mind is fresh in the morning, the best time to deal with problem is in the morning. Next, please. Next, please. Social activation. So important in these testing times. This word keeps going on, social distancing. It's actually wrong. It's only physical distancing. Socially, you have to be more active. You have to connect, you have to talk, you have to express, you have to mix, you have to connect to those people you haven't done for a long time. This will really help. This will really boost you. So it is important that you call up people, you talk to them, you video chat to them, you write to them, you send cards, do everything that is so that you can do within the confines of the safety protocols of COVID. So you must be more active than usual. So if you use the social media, please use it for a good purpose, sending out good messages, sending out positive messages, passing on uh, me- good jokes, humor, whatever you like. So this is the time for social activation, not distancing. But the true word for the protocol is physical distancing. So just keep in mind, the more socially active you are, the more mentally stable and healthy you will feel. Next, please. Next, please. Now, Mowaddat also spoke about physicians' relationships. To date, all the studies that have been done on relationships have found that physicians' relationships are not good, are not satisfactory, especially their marital relationships. They tend to stay married, they tend to linger on their marriages, but their state of, due to their work, their level of pressures or whatever time, they have less time, physicians have less time for fun and home activities. They are more engrossed in their work, and that creates problems and rifts at home. So they give less time to their families, their spouses, and their relationships are not satisfactory, and in fact intimacy is also reduced in physicians relationships. So again, this COVID is an opportunity where you're spending more time at home, and you must look at this and deal with this. The relationship is a kind of a buffer for you to be protected from the distress of COVID. You need to have good relationship. Those people who have good relationship, be it with the family members, be it with friends, be it with relatives, they are happier, they are strong, they live longer, and they live better lives. So important to have good positive relationships where you can interact, you can share, and you can do something about it. So important. So look at the people around you and think, I haven't spoken to this friend for a long time, whether he's in the US or wherever he is, doesn't matter. Connect to him, talk to him, video chat, have a video chat with him, and do that as much as possible, and then again find a new person the next day and try to connect with them. So important. Next, please. Next, please. Work environment. So it's, if you are working say 8 hours, 10 hours a day, you must make your environment a source of relaxation also for you, not a source of distress. All of us know what to do, what medicine to give, what to blood levels to do, what to do. We all know our basic protocols, but do we really look at the workplace and decide, okay, this is the change we want, so that we can improve our life at the workplace as well as our home? So the workplace is somewhere you spend the peak time of your life, peak time of your hours during the day, when you are fresh and fully functional. So if you make the workplace better in terms of having a relaxation time in the workplace, in having a prayer or a relaxation or a timeout room in the workplace, having some eatables, fresh fruits or things like that, these are all recommended guidelines. This is not something that I've just thought of. These are recommended guidelines. So you need to have a workplace which is helpful to you, which keeps you relaxed, which keeps you better functioning than before. And at the same time, there's a lot to say about your colleagues. This is a bad time to pick up your fights, pick up your petty issues with your colleagues, pick up your differences of all the time that we hear in Penn कि उसका grade ये है, उसका if we are trying to get promotion and transfer or whatever, this is a bad time to pick up the fights with your colleagues. Be nice to everyone. Be nice to your lower staff. Be nice to your management. Be nice to everyone. And if a problem crops up, look for positive solutions. Do not get involved in petty disputes, anger issues, or whatever. So, so important that you keep your mood under control. So important you keep your workplace mentally healthy, so that you actually look forward to going to work in the morning. We are all doing the kind of work that a messiah does, that we are doing something which is helping others. We are trying to save lives. So why not we make our lives better at the same time as well? So you must look at your work environment, look at the changes that you can implement. Next, please. Next, please. Management. So important. I want to give you an example. The message, Shifa International Hospital is a private hospital. So when the COVID response happened, they immediately closed the OPDs and they put in protocols for everyone. And then almost every second day, the management was sending out messages like, it is important for us that our doctors, their and staff, families, friends are protected from this COVID scenario. We are not going to take any unsafe measures. Please keep this in mind. And this is exactly what they practiced. And it was such a good boost for the staff that the management was actually concerned. And they lot of you remember, it's a private entity and they work to make money, and they actually closed all the OPD. The OPD are still closed, and it's an online system that they have put in place. But they send in these positive messages and they actually implemented these policies. So this is the kind of scenario that you want from your management in these times, to boost your morale, to improve your mental health. And then at the same time, you want praise. If you are working with COVID, so you want praise. You want your management to praise you. You want whoever is around you, your head of department, whoever, to praise you. And the more you praise you receive, the better it is. And we in PIMS, we also got certificates from the National Control and Command Center, which showed that they were actually acknowledging our. It's just a piece of paper, but it did a lot of help for all of us. And at the same time, we were acknowledged in all other ways as well. So management can play a big role in boosting the morale of doctors by giving them certificates of their importance, their contribution, by praising them regularly. It doesn't cost anything. By giving them promotions on time. And the government gave us extra salaries in the government setup as well. Again, that was a very positive response from the government. We know very much Pakistan is in very deep financial crisis, but still the government managed to pay us. And that is the way to do it. And again, we need to look at individuals. The management needs to look at individuals' problems, whether it be promotions, transfers, whatever, and they need to be supportive because they need to get work out of them. So the best issue of management principle is that if you want good work, you need to keep your staff healthy and happy. And that is what I'm talking about management-wise. So it is a message to all managers that you must, in these testing times, look after your staff, look at their needs, understand their needs, and help them in every way possible that you can. Next, please. Again, one point I forgot, that the management also needs to be share their decision making with the staff, the people who are actually working on the ground. So it's very important for in enhancing productivity and self-esteem is that the management should actually share all major decisions taken by the management. So today in PIMS, we had a meeting by the heads of departments that they wanted to, the government had given direction that we want to start the OPDs. And the management discussed with us and we came up with solutions how to implement this. And we all agreed on a date and everything, and everybody was happy. And this is the kind of situation that we want from our hospital managers or whoever it is. Next, please. Next, please. Can you go back to the previous slide? It's also about boosting self-esteem. So it is very important. It is to do with the way we think. This is a bad time to think negatively. This is a bad time to plan negatively. This is a bad time to think about things which distress you. So no matter what, keep your mind healthy and open. Try to find a good solution to everything. Try to find a good thought about everything. Try to find the good in everyone. So that will help you boost your self-esteem as well. And always count your blessing. Don't worry that you've lost this much, that much, this has happened. But count your blessings and keep on repeating them in your mind so that your mind always is on a positive track and does not go into a bliss of negativity. Next, please. And again, as we talk about, all these points are to do with the quality of life. And what we are trying to do is make some change for the better to make an improvement in the quality of life. So I want to share today's news with you. There's a news that a palliative nurse in London who was dealing with dying patients, she has written an article that what is the most regret from the dying patients thoughts. And and they said that I wish I had not worked so hard. I wish I had lived my life for myself and not for others. I wish I had looked for more happiness. I wish I had looked after my own needs. I wish I had been more in touch with my friends. These are the 5 points that she has listed from dying patients' regrets, that if I wish they had done this. So I think that this is a food for thought that we need to keep in mind if we want to improve our lives, that everything is not work. Pakistan mein ye masla hai. Our social, our physical, our everything is to do with work. 90% of our life revolves around work, which is absolutely unhealthy. We need to divide, we need to balance, and we need to demarcate what is social, what is family, what is work. And we need to limit the number of hours of work that we do. And we all know what doctors do. They'll be sitting in clinics until 1 or 2 at night, and then in the morning they get up and go to the hospital. That is probably the worst way to live a life. Next, please. Next, please. And this is what I talked about, balancing life. So balancing your life in the 3 spheres, the social, the home, and the workplace, and giving it equal time and importance, and not just focusing on one part, which is the work life. Next, please. Sleep hygiene. So it's the first thing when you're distressed or upset is sleep. And if your sleep gets disturbed, you will not be productive or functional the next day. You will be irritable, you will be upset, you will be drowsy, and you will not be functional. So it's so crucial to look at your sleep and make sure you have good sleep. And if you sleep well, you will function well, you will be fresh the next day. So the guidelines are that for a person of a doctor's age, 7 hours is a good sleep time at night. And the ways to achieve that is that you do not sleep during the day, you try to sleep only at night. And the best advice I can give you is to wake up at a single time every day. Even if you have slept or not, you must wake up at the time that you are used to, whether it's for Fajr prayers, whether it's at 7 o'clock, whether it's at 8 o'clock. Do never change that. Even if you have not sleep, try to not cover it up by sleeping until 10 or 11. Don't do that. Don't sleep after that. So even if you have not slept for the night previously, do not wake up late. The second part is that do not take any stimulants after 6 o'clock if you have a sleep issue. Do not smoke after 6 o'clock. And then do go to bed only if you feel sleepy. And the best advice I can give you is to not look at your cell phones, because the light of the cell phones activates your brain, and you must try not to turn off your cell phone, say after 8 or whatever the situation might be. So no stimulants. Try to sleep, manage your time, and try to sleep 7 hours at night continuously, and do not sleep during the day, and do not take a heavy meal at night. A heavy meal means a fatty meal. Next, please. So diet, all of us know about the diet and that the recommendation. So my recommendation to the doctor is to count the calories of what you eat. Count the calories and keep it within limits. So everything that you eat and everything that you manage to eat all day in the 24-hour cycle, count the calories. You have a cell phone, you can check the calories of a certain food item that you're eating. And of course, we all know that fresh fruits and vegetables are the best source for any mood enhancement. And I would include dark chocolate in that, which dark chocolate has an effect on the mood and cognitive functions as well. And we all know that we need to avoid the whites in the food, the salt, the sugar, and the white flour. And we need to make sure that the calories we consume are balanced by the output exercise that we do. And in these times, as we are not exercising or doing physical activities as much as we should, so we should at the same time limit our calorie intake as well, so that we do not gain weight. And a lot of people are gaining weight, and gaining weight is a bad for mental health. It gives a bad, it doesn't boost your mental health, it makes you feel worse. Next, please. Again, media advice. Your family is at home, you are at home, all the time the news is on. And the media is so bad, you will only feel and see and hear bad news. It cannot be, it doesn't necessarily have to be the COVID related, but otherwise as well. It's about rape, it's about accidents, it's about blast in Beirut, whatever. It's about a crash of Air India. There is nothing positive in the news most of the time. So the best way to deal with that is to hear the news maybe once or twice a day, in the morning and evening, and not let it on. It affects you if you hear bad news all the time. And again, it's bad for your family as well, and especially if you have young kids, it's very bad for them, because if they see the news again and again, they actually think that it's happening again and again, and they absorb the stress and trauma of that. So try to limit the news to once or twice a day. Don't look at other things. Maybe you have Netflix, maybe you have Niatel, whatever it is you like, you look at them, and you try to keep the television as a source of not distress but source of entertainment. And same for social media. The social media is such a bad companion that you cannot imagine the damage it is doing to you and your family. So because I'm in multiple responsibilities, so I have to be in different groups, whether be it the medical school, the university, or the PIMS, or the psychiatrist group. So all the time we see these news and these messages from colleagues, and you need to really switch yourself off from news which are negative. Do not open them. Do not, and most of all, do not forward them. Just look at the light, humorous, or maybe some advice, medical advice, or paper sharing that is coming to you, which always does. That is the best use of the social media. Now, just to give you an example, we are so negative in our thinking, which we need to change. One of our colleagues, an assistant professor in working with some of the COVID patients, she put up a video on where she's putting up this PPE, and she's looking after patients. And she put that video on our PIMS site where all the doctors are. And there were one or two positive comments, and then everybody started commenting. But it's the nurses who've been looking after, it's the paramedics who've been looking after the patients. Why are you putting this, and why are you making as if you are running the service? There were so many negative comments that I was so upset about it. And this is the mindset that we need to change. We need to realize, we need to give space, we need to be positive about it, and we need to send positive messages. And whenever I put a message in a group, I always make it something which is positive. I always try to give something which would make someone happier or relaxed. So always do that. give good news, nice news, and as doctors, all of us are doctors, we need to give forward nice, good papers which have valid evidence and advice that we need to share with others. That is the best use of the social media. So be very careful. This social media is a good tool if it's used properly, and it's the worst marriage that you can have with a phone if you start getting into the abyss of negativity and negative news. And then there's this 2020 rules by the American College of Ophthalmologists that if you look at the screen for 20 minutes, you must look away from the screen for 20 seconds if you want to avoid headaches and distress and things like that. And you need to look away at 20 feet different distance. So this is the 2020 rule, that you must move your eyes away from the screen after 20 minutes and for 20 seconds and look at a distance from your normal routine. So again, some basic healthy advice. Next, please. Next, please. So there was a question asked from Mowaddat about physical activity. Now, we are very poor in terms when it comes to physical activity as a nation. We are very good at eating and piling up calories and eating meat and oily foods and rice and things like that. But at the same time, we are very poor in terms of physical activity, and that is why diabetes is everywhere, and very early onset of diabetes and ischemic heart disease. And we are not in, and we are all grossly obese by a certain age. Physical activity and mental health activity go together. And if you are physically active, you are mentally more robust and healthy. And you know the endorphins are released when you walk and run, and that gives a boost to your mood. So physical activity is crucial. Now, what I want to tell you is that the WHO guideline, everybody knows, half an hour, 5 days a week, jogging or brisk walking. Now, if you can't do that and you don't have the ability to do that, let me give you some basic advice. Why don't you use use the stairs as many times as possible? That is probably the best physical activity. Keep moving about. Don't sit in one stationary for more than 1 hour. Keep moving about here and there. Keep yourself active without, even if you don't do the exercise, just keep yourself and yourself active. Try to, when you park the car, park it a distance from your workplace, so that you actually have to walk some distance to your workplace or your home. So at least that part you can do. And within the workplace also, try to walk as much as possible so that you can be physically active. So my advice is that look at ways that you can remain physically active if you're not into exercise and you really can't push yourself to exercise, which most of us are very much skeptical about exercise, and we are too lazy to do that. But do that in other ways that I've just suggested. Next, please. Next. Next, please. Okay, this is another area that we can actually implement and do. We need to not keep worrying all day about this, that, what happens, why this happened, blah, blah, blah. We need to schedule a worry time. So in the day, maybe 3 times a day, we need to keep 15 minutes as a scheduled worry time. And we need to think about our worries during that 15 minutes and then not think about them the rest of the time. So you need to schedule your worry time. So maybe 3 times a day, that's all you need to do. You sit and you think, and you maybe write down your worries, or you discuss your worries with somebody. Don't do it after that. Just, even if the worry comes to you after that, just distract yourself, leave the room, talk to somebody, put on the TV, start working, start going out of the, whatever you want to do. But do not keep worrying 24/7. That will not keep you healthy mentally. And try to control and follow this schedule. Next, please. Next, please. Now, unhealthy coping skills. We are doctors are very good when to give advice to others, but when it comes to ourselves, we are very poor in following advice. And then the worst part is that we have access to all kinds of medication. So the unhealthy coping skills include overeating, include smoking, over smoking, include focusing on unimportant issues unnecessarily, uh, we using medication or abusing medicine unnecessarily, be it something like a benzodiazepine, something like a mood tramadol or something like that. And then the worst part is the most unhealthy coping skill is losing your faith in yourself, your culture, your religion. That is what will kill you mentally. So you must never lose faith. This kind of problems have happened before in centuries and will happen again. We are going through a phase. We all know it's temporary, it will go away, but it's a testing phase from God to us. And you remember the example, because we worked in the 2005 earthquake, we realized that the Pakistani population was very resilient. They were very strong, and they always mentioned that it's God's doing, and it's His will that this should have happened to us. We lost our loved ones, we lost our homes, and they were strong. So be aware of unhealthy coping skills, and overeating is one of them. Just keep remembering that. Do not indulge in overeating. So if you look at the Food Panda or something like that, you will realize that there's actually nothing healthy in it. If you look at the guidelines for healthy foods, be it vegetables, fruits, etc., in Food Panda you will find nothing like that. And we all order food from outside, so it's all oily, meaty, and everything like that. So we need to look for something healthy at least somewhere from somewhere. Next, please. Another part of unhealthy coping skill is becoming cynical, yani tanz karna. That is again a sign of distress, कि हम दूसरों की बातों पर, दूसरों की किसी भी अच्छाई पर तंज करना शुरू कर देते हैं. So being cynical is part of an unhealthy coping skill. Next, please. Next, please. Religion. Mowaddat touched on it, but believe me, religion is hope. Culturally, our religion is terribly important to us. It's the backbone of our faith and our hope and our discipline in life. So if we become closer to God and we beg Him for mercy and we beg Him for many other things, it really helps. It means it makes you feel that you are connected, that you are not alone, that you have someone to rely on, someone to talk to, someone to hope from. And believe me, whatever you hope for, it is realized. It might be a delay, but it is realized. So practicing our religion is also a relaxation. Like doing the namaz is a kind of relaxation. So I have prayed more in these times because I've been home more often and spent more time at home. I've prayed more often and I've listened to Quran more often. So again, religion in our lives as Pakistanis, as Muslims, is very, very important. The more we look at God, we rely on God, the more strong we feel. So there is no second thoughts about that. So always think yourself that there is a bigger being out there who is watching at us, who is willing to look after us, who is willing to listen to us 24/7, and is willing to help us. And we all, as Muslims, have faith in that. So, religion is something very important if we want to keep ourselves mentally healthy. Next, please. Very important from a doctor's point of view, positive, useful experiences. Let's think about doing something which will boost us, and that thing as doctors is how we can help others. Now these are terrible testing times. We everywhere patients are suffering, everywhere Pakistanis are suffering, and the economy is so bad. People are returning from work, the daily wages are not able to meet. Look at the waiters and the hotel people. Where are they? Where have they gone? How will they earn money? Look at the barbers and everybody else. So you will look at a lot of people who have needs. So try to help them. And this is exactly what ventilators in Pakistan is doing. So they purchased ventilators and gave it to PIMS. And they are doing a lot of other work as well. So this kind of positive experiences really boosts your morale, really boosts your self-esteem, and really gives you a kick that you absolutely need. So doing this kind of work will never go to waste. Don't, if you go to the market, you park your car, 10 people come to you begging for you, and they कहते जी छोड़ें जी ये तो fraud है, this is a racket or whatever. No, don't think like that. Think this person has come to you, this person has requested you for help. It is your job to give it to them or not give it to them, but do not be impolite to them. They are doing it for a need, and they are poor people. So try to keep your hand open, give as much as you can, and give a lot. These are the times, and the amount you give, you will get it 10 times back. This is God's promise to you. So I'm the in charge of the welfare committee in PIMS. So we have sends out many messages for help. कभी सैनिटाइजर चाहिए हैं, कभी ग्लव्स चाहिए हैं, एंड दैट्स व्हेन आई रियलाइज कि पाकिस्तान में तो कुछ बनता ही नहीं है. ग्लव्स भी पाकिस्तान में नहीं है, सैनिटाइजर भी नहीं है, द पीपी वाज नॉट इन पाकिस्तान. नाउ दे आर मेकिंग इट. वेंटिलेटर्स भी नहीं बनते, कुछ भी नहीं बनता. वी वर इंपोर्टिंग एवरीथिंग, just such a basic things such as gloves. So we used to get around, we used to get funds, and we used to give donations to the hospital. And we've done, I have totally forgotten how much we have done, but it is my policy, I never try to project it. But the most important thing that I got was 170 coffins, which I donated to PIMS. Because it's a government, there was no header under which they could purchase coffins, and they badly needed coffins. So I sent out a distress SOS message to all my friends. And by the evening, I had sufficient funds to purchase and make new coffins. And we donated about 170 coffins to PIMS, and they were all utilized. And this is the kind of work that you must do. This is the positive, useful experience that you must all get involved in. Help others, and you will help yourself. And then somebody mentioned about procrastination and not being able to study. So doctors के लिए तो this is a best opportunity to write papers, write research articles. This is the best article. This is the best time to do it. Writing an article will never go to waste. It will always be a thing that will be on your CV forever, permanently. So this is a good time to write papers, write research papers if you have time, and at the same time not at the expense of your other studies. So do that if you can. And I think that this is the best advice I can give to doctors. Next, please. This is a picture that somebody shared on social media, and look at this poor girl. This is the reality of Pakistan, where you have these three nicely dressed up Eid girls, and this is the girl who has nothing. She's a poor slippers and everything else. And I really felt sad when I saw this picture. And these are the people we need to help, we need to sort, we need to reach out to. And these are all our own people. They are Pakistanis, no matter where they are. So we must go out and reach to or help these people. Next, please. So the important issue is, in your thoughts, focus on the present. Don't think about the future. 5 saal baad kya hoga, 10 saal baad. We really don't know that. So just at the moment when we are going through a phase, focus on the present and plan for the present, not for the future. Very, very important. Don't distress yourself. Just keep it to the present. Next, please. Next, please. Problem solving, very important. If you have issues, don't solve them when you are in a state of distress. Postpone them. Don't make decisions which are important, which will have long term implications on your life when you are under stress. You might always regret that. So, this is a good time not to do things, just to postpone them. Say for 3 months, say for 4 months. Don't try to cram up your problems. Try to take one problem at a time. Do not cram up 3 or 4 problems at the same time. You won't be able to manage them. So do not take decisions under pressure, and do not uh, cram up things, and try to deal with only the urgent issues in your life, not the long term or issues which have no relevance at the moment. And don't take on more than you can cope. Just reject it. Just do what you can do, and that's the best advice I can give you. Do not take on more than you can do. Just take on the urgent matters, and do not cram up 2 or 3 things at the same time, and do not make important decisions under this stress. Next, please. So we are very good at talking about others' words. Why not talk about Hazrat Ali's Raziallah Ta'ala anhu's words? A remarkable person who has a cool mind, a sweet tongue, a kind heart, and a smile on his face. And this is the message I want to give to all of the doctors, that this is the way they should be. They should have a cool mind. They should have a sweet tongue. They should always say nice things. Even if they don't feel it, they should always utter nice, positive, encouraging messages for themselves and for others. And they should always have a kind heart, which most doctors should. Otherwise, they do not deserve to be a doctor. And again, very, very important, always have a smile on your face, even if you are distressed. It will make you feel better, and it will make others around you feel better. And these are the words of our precious Hazrat Ali, not of a person from the West or whatever. Next, please. So, what should you do? The important thing is that you should do what makes you happy. You need to find out what makes you happy, and you should do that within boundaries I've written there. So try to find out what makes you happy, whether it's a chat, whether it's a television program, whether it's a book, whatever it is, whether it's music, whether it's dancing, whatever it is, whether it is eating something special, do it. No concerns about that. Do as much as you can what makes you happy. And then I come back to William Osler, and his final words were, it is in our hands to what we make the practice of medicine. So we can make it a source of distress for us, or we can make it a source of joy in life and happiness and usefulness. This is what he says, that it is on our hand to make it a source of distress, worry, and annoyance, or we can make it a source of joy and happiness. And that is my message to all the doctors. Try to make the practice of medicine a source of joy and happiness. And this is no other than William Osler in 1903, the founder of John Hopkins, Canadian physician. Next, please. So the conclusion is that I've given you some tips. So you need to accept that you can improve your lives, and every one of us can do that. And we need to make life worth living, and we must try to do that. Otherwise, time will pass, you will get older, and you will always regret. And I've also given you the message today from the palliative nurse, that the regret that people have, that they didn't do have enough for themselves and for everything for others, and they work too hard. So message is, improve your life and make it worth living. Next, please. If you need professional advice, do not be hesitant about it. Doctors are very hesitant about seeking professional advice, especially mental health related advice. If you think things are getting too much and you're very anxious, you're distressed, you're depressed, look for professional advice. Do not let go of it. You can actually solve a lot of issues, and psychiatry is one of the most successful in terms of treatment in the branches of medicine. So you will actually get advice that you will find useful. So always remember that if you need professional advice, go for it. Do not have second thoughts about it. Next, please. Next, please. So this is the last slide. So choose the path that you want. And as I told you, choose the path of joy, happiness, relaxation for yourself and your families. And work hard, no problems about that. But at the same time, balance yourself. Make the practice of medicine a source of joy and happiness and contentment for yourself, and keep at it so that your life is worth living. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir. That was a very informative session. And with your permission, we would first like to ask some questions by the participants. So question number 1, as clinicians, how do we deal with the anxiety of making our families and loved ones sick?
Sorry, can you repeat the last part?
Yes, of course. How do we deal with the anxiety of making our families and loved ones unwell? As
Yeah.
clinicians, yeah.
Our loved ones?
Unwell, sick. Maybe they're exposed to the virus because of us.
Okay. The virus, if you have and you have spread it to others, it's a tricky issue. Most of the patients will recover. We all know that. And most of the patient will be well within 2-3 weeks, and they will come out of it. The virus is tricky because it's actually all the viruses have a mental health side effect. They have all the virus, that is, be it the hepatitis, the herpes, or whatever, they have mental health side effects of anxiety and depression. So that is one part of the problem. The second part is the general distress that everyone feels. So if you or your family member has a problem with the virus and they become anxious and restless, you need to follow the protocol of whatever I've said just now, the basic advice of looking after yourself better, trying to keep yourself busy and distracted, practicing relaxation and meditation and religion. And if you feel it's still not going away after, say, a few days, then you seek professional advice, and there are a lot of things that can be done as a professional, which with specific techniques, be it cognitive techniques, be it relaxation techniques, be it medication, a combination of all these techniques. All these issues are very much treatable, and most 99% of the patients can be helped, and within days they can improve and come out of it.
Thank you so much, sir. Another question is, as we know, several female doctors who were expecting have passed away. So considering that, how may we counsel COVID positive pregnant doctors?
Yes, very important. COVID positive female doctors?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes.
We have held about 10 sessions on stress management for doctors and nurses. And we found out that the people who were more under distress were the female doctors. And they were facing a lot of pressures. They were facing a lot of pressure from their families. Na jao kaam pe, kya zarurat hai, ghar mein jarasim leke aa rahi ho, that kind of thing. Even if they were, especially if they were married, and they, poor things, had to come for work because they couldn't do anything else. So the female staff actually faced more pressures as compared to the male staff, male doctors. Now, you spoke about the pregnancy related COVID issues. Again, very, very important that you give them the proper medical advice that can be given by the COVID doctor. They must understand that, and they must take the necessary precautions. And if they are suffering from distress or stress because of that, then that issue needs to be dealt with by the hospital psychiatry team, or whatever the situation, or whatever the reaction might be. So generally nothing will happen. They will lead a normal pregnancy. nothing will happen and everything will be fine. But the stresses that they will face because of secondary reasons are going to be too much, and they must be helped with that. And if they don't want to speak to a mental health professional, they can actually speak to a colleague who can discuss it with a mental health professional and get back to them and advise them. So, again, so important to seek the right kind of professional advice in this very tricky scenario where you're COVID positive, you're pregnant, and you want to make sure that you are protected, your child is protected, and you remain healthy mentally and physically. So important to seek the right advice from the necessary professionals and to follow that advice so that nothing goes wrong.
Thank you, sir. There's another question by Dr. Ayman Ali. How do people already diagnosed with depression and anxiety calm themselves in these times, particularly if they can't go to a therapist due to some reasons, for example, if they can't afford a therapist anymore or for any other reason?
Okay. When you talk about depression and anxiety, you have moved away from mental health to a disorder. So that means that this disorder needs treatment. And if you don't get the treatment, this will actually go on getting worse, and you might end up feeling suicidal. That is the net peak level of any problem, psychiatric, be it depression or anxiety. Now, you have to understand that these problems, as I've told you, in the branch of medicine that is psychiatry, these is the most successful treated patients. Depression and anxiety is the most successful treatment available for these kind of problems. They have to take treatment. Now, if they can't afford to go to a therapist, I don't know why they can't go to a therapist in the government hospital. पिम्स में हमारा डिपार्टमेंट फुली फंक्शनल है, हमारे डॉक्टर्स मौजूद हैं, हमारे साइकोलॉजिस्ट मौजूद हैं, पिंडी में भी मौजूद हैं डॉक्टर्स गवर्नमेंट हॉस्पिटल में. इट्स नॉट अ क्वेश्चन ऑफ मनी. एंड व्हाई शुड अ डॉक्टर चार्ज अ डॉक्टर? Again, I want to ask you that. Why can't they see them for free, even if they are sitting outside the hospital? So don't delay it, please. Don't prolong your misery, please. Within days, you will feel better. Within weeks, the issue will be resolved. Please seek help early. Don't let it exceed to a certain level where it could have serious consequences. Please seek help. Please get advice. Please look after yourself, and please resolve the issue.
Thank you, sir. Dr. Hira Amir sent us a question. Female doctors in our society cannot easily visit psychiatrists because of the surrounding stigma in our society. So is there any other way to seek help?
Yes, but why not online? Why not? Absolutely. You see, the stigma is a really something which is not just present in Pakistan; it's present all over the world. I was 10 years in UK, and we saw patients there who were very skeptical and about going to a psychiatrist. But as education level improves, as understanding of mental health issues improve, we realize that these issues can be helped. The important thing is, can they be helped? And the answer is very much help. And I keep on stressing that to you. So we need to accept and look for help. We do not want to prolong this. We do not want to wait for the serious consequences. We must, if you're worried about going to, why not seek online help? Why don't you call up your hospital psychiatrist and ask him for help? Why not you talk to him? Or why not you get a colleague to call him if you don't want to name yourself? So I'll give you an example. Like, we have a helpline for the health staff of PIMS. So we kept the helpline open for 24 hours. And in most cases, they would call and they would not want to be identified. And we perfectly appreciated, and we did not question that at all. Even though we were required to document everything, we did not do that. So nothing wrong with that. Confidentiality is a part of all disorders, be it health, physical health or mental health. So we need to protect that. But at the same time, if doctors don't understand that they need help and they need to go to a doctor, then how do you expect the lay public to understand this and the stigma part of it? So stigma will always be there, it will be there, but education will eventually sort it out and it will disappear. Nothing to worry about. but keep this in mind that you can be helped. You need to just seek the right kind of advice, and you will come out of this successfully. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. In fact, we have a question that is kind of linked to what you just said. Dr. Iba Amjad asked, why are doctors more hesitant to seek psychiatric help, and how do we suggest that we improve it?
Why are doctors?
Why are doctors more hesitant to seek psychiatric help, and
Yes.
how can we improve it?
I always, I think when I went through the slides, I told you that doctors are trained in a certain way that they feel that they are invincible, obsessional, perfectionist. And that creates this myth of invincibility, which is wrong. We are prone, in fact, more prone to mental distress than the general population, because we are seeing life and death every day. We are dealing with life and death issues every day, and we are spending a lot of time doing that. And we are, again, we have less time for our families. So, and again, when we start our anatomy, we are taught to see patients as bodies and anatomical figures, and we don't think about them from a mind perspective. So that creates a false sense of invincibility, which is absolutely maladaptive, must be changed. We must understand that we are vulnerable, and we must understand that we can, as human beings, we are not robots. We have human instincts, we have emotions, which we have a mind that can be affected, and at that will need help if we are under pressure, and we must seek help so that we do not make a mess of it.
Thank you, sir. Another question is, what do you have to say about the unethical behavior of doctors not wearing masks or practicing social distancing anymore, especially the ones who have recovered from corona and therefore they're not worried about contracting the virus anymore? How can we counsel them?
Yes, I think it's an important question. If the doctors will not follow the advice that they are supposed to preach, then what do you expect the lay public? आप सारा वक्त तो खबरें सुनते हैं ना कि जी आज they are doing this in the market, they are roaming about, people are roaming about here and there, they're not doing anything about not wearing the mask and things like that. Now, if the doctors won't do it, they will put themselves at risk, and then the next people they will put at risk is their families, their little kids, their elderly parents. So it's time to wake up. This is not a sort of a uh, false scenario that we are going through. This is reality, where we know that there is a small organism that is there. It is in the air for 7, 8 hours. It can affect any one of us, all of us. And if we carry it home, we will affect our families. So if we do not worried about ourselves, we should worry about our families and our friends, that we can pass it on to them. So if it's happening in a hospital setting, it is the hospital's responsibility to ensure that all the staff wear the proper equipment that is required in their particular area of work, and make sure that they do not cause harm to themselves. I'll give you an example that there are, I think, about close to 300 people of PIM staff were affected by the virus. Now, the interesting thing is that out of them, very few were directly related to work. It was more when they left their work, went out for a meal with their other doctors, they got it from them, or they were roaming about here and there in other kind of social activities that they got the virus. Actually, very few got it from working in the isolation wards in the COVID areas. So this was the kind of non-seriousness that they took on themselves. And it was, again, I think that if it was the junior doctors, it was the fault of um, the their professors who did not train them properly or give them proper advice. It was the seniors who must have done that. फिर हमारे एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन के काफ़ी लोग अफेक्ट हुए. Again, it had to do with them going on janazas and things like that, and carrying out religious activities and celebrating Eid and all that. not related again to the hospital, and then working in a closed environment where they passed it on to each other. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Another question is, how do we ensure a consistent level of empathy in our patient interactions while dealing with an increased volume of patients and the increased stress that comes with it? Are there any tips as well on breaking any bad news to these patients?
Yes. Empathy is the basis of medical practice. We are in the domain of public dealing. We are dealing with patients. And if we don't empathize, we will never be a good doctor. So, the first thing that you see a person in distress is for you to feel that distress. If you don't feel that and you are not empathetic, you will not be able to help them. So, the answer to your question is try to put yourself in the other person's shoes, try to understand his distress. He's got a medical issue, but there are other problems as well. He can't afford the medicine. He has children, 5 children, he has to take care of them. He has other distresses, he has a relationship, whatever. Um, be very humble always. As a doctor, one should always be very humble. As a doctor, we should always, as I keep telling you about Hazrat Ali's saying that you should always be smiling and have a kind heart. So if we have that, we will always be empathetic. And the doctor who is not empathetic will never be a good doctor. And then you talk about workload, that is a big problem. Again, today we were discussing in PIMS the starting of the OPDs, and we all agreed that we would have an appointment system implemented, that this was the best time to do it, that we would have a phone line and we will discuss and give appointments, say, every 10-15 minutes or so. So the answer to that question is to have a load that is manageable. Aapne meri slides dekhi? The advice I gave was don't take on too much on yourself in these times. Do what you can do effectively. Don't push yourself too much. Don't become a robot.
Thank you, sir. I would also like to ask, how many hours of sleep would you recommend for doctors who are on duty during this pandemic to stay mentally robust?
Yes, I've already mentioned the sleep is a very interesting area. And sleep, you need basically 7 hours sleep, I've told you, at night. Not, it's a bad idea to sleep during the day. So 7 hours continuous sleep is the average time that a person needs of a, say, in his years of 20, 30, 40, 50, 60. With age, sleep decreases a little, it might drop to 6 hours. Then there are certain gifted people in the world who are sleeping only, say, 3 hours a day, 3 hours at night, and they are fully functional. And there were a lot of people like Napoleon, Hitler, um, Margaret Thatcher, Qaid-e-Azam, Bhutto, who used to sleep only 3 hours and they would be completely refreshed. So everyone's requirement is different, but the general guideline is that 6 to 7 hours sleep you must get if you want to be robust the next day. So that level of sleep you must have. So try to keep your sleep in check. And the first sign of anxiety distress is your sleep, which will go bad if you won't be able to sleep. It's a sign of distress. And the second sign of distress is irritability in our population. Irritability, yani chirchirapan. Thank you.
Sir, so sir, you would also say that because of our sleeping pattern, of course, if we sleep more during the day than during the night, then it would definitely increase anxiety and mental disorders.
Yes, I need to explain a little bit more. There are two types of sleep. One is called the REM sleep and the non-REM sleep. The REM sleep is the dream sleep, basically. Rapid eye movement sleep is the dream sleep. And that is the best quality of the sleep. And it happens mostly in the second part of the night. Subah fajr se pehle pehle jo hoti hai. And that is the best part of the sleep. So it's not just about sleeping, it's about the quality of sleep as well. So you must have a good sleep and you must have a good quality sleep. That is the dream sleep. So always remember that.
Okay, sir. Thank you. Dr. Ramsha Siddiq also asked a question. How do we help patients who just got COVID, and how do we help them deal with the mental stress other than reassurance? Is there any other way other than reassurance?
Absolutely. Depends really on what they are presenting with. If they are panicking and restless and all over the place and anxious and aggressive, irritable, you need to sort that out. You need to get them help. You need to sort that out. If they're just anxious about the uh, reaction to uh, just a normal reaction to a fear from the COVID, you need to give them the proper information that most of the doctors and most of the general population now know. So you need to make sure that you give them the correct advice and the protection measures for those around them, and you need to tell them that this will be resolved. You need to reassure them that this will be resolved. You just need to do this, and you need to what I'm talking about is education of the parents, education of the person and the family. Very, very important. So the family must support him or her during these times. Now, if the person has developed a psychological reaction which is beyond a normal reaction to any distress that you can see, then you need to get them professional help so that the problem is sorted out. uh, again again, as I've said, it's very much an area which the person can be helped.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Dr. Eamon Khaber asked, research suggests that a large percentage of patients feel uncomfortable with seeing doctors who struggle with mental illnesses themselves. So how should these doctors deal with such a stigma in patients?
Right. I want to explain something to you. Psychiatry is actually moving towards organicity. The amount of scanning and detailed scanning and PET scanning and different kinds of ex- extensive scanning that they are carrying out in psychiatric patients, it it's becoming more of an organic or physical disorder. You need to understand that. E- Depression, anxiety, all show brain changes. So basically, they are brain related illnesses. And they are areas of the brain which are affected, like in anxiety, the amygdala is gone weak and is using less blood supply as per PET scan. So, like in schizophrenia, the dopamine system is affected, and in mood, the limbic system is affected. So, all these disorders have actually got a physical basis, and that will be proven over the next 10 years or so, and is in the process of being proved at the moment. They are saying, and with improvement, the brain changes actually go back to normal. So you need to understand, even post traumatic stress disorder is actually a physical disorder. So there is no point in worrying about stigma when you know that you have a problem which can be helped, and when you know the problem can be resolved, your distress will be relieved, and you will come out of this happier and successful. So it's very important to counsel and explain and try to make the person understand that this is not the time to worry about stigma, and that number two, their confidentiality will be maintained, and they will not the information will not be relayed as per ethical standards to others, and it will only be shared between the doctor and the uh, distressed person. So these are some of the clues that you can give to a person to help them. Now, if they still don't agree, then you can do a online or a phone call chat and seek treatment. And since the session is about doctors, so they should have no problem with that. And if they want to hide their identity, they can do that as well. But it's the crucial thing is to get the proper treatment and support, which you must do.
Thank you, sir. This next question is a little off topic, but Dr. Iqbal Haider asked, he stated actually, unfortunately, national electronic media has played a negative role during this pandemic. Is there any national guideline or SOPs for electronic media to play its effective role during such a crisis? And if not, then stakeholders like you must play its role for such SOPs.
Okay, let me. This is something I've been working on for the past 10 years. I want to tell you this. What we did was, after the earthquake, we held a series of workshops for journalists. And we realized that they had absolutely zero knowledge about mental health issues, absolutely zero understanding what they were doing and what they were causing with their breaking news and their pictures of horrifying mutilated bodies and their broken homes and things like that. They had absolutely no understanding of this, zero understanding. And the only concern was, we can't do anything. It's the rating, it's the Malik of the channel who wants sensational news, who wants this. So we started to work at policy level. So at that time, Senator Marvi Maiman was in charge of uh, the information. She was in charge of information, and she worked with us, and we created a document and we created a bill for Parliament, where we give very clear guidelines that this is how it should be. Very basic, simple guidelines that if these kind of pictures should not be shown before 9 o'clock, and that they should not be repeated, and that there should be a limit to what is shown, and all kinds of basic, very much doable guideline. And this bill was passed by Parliament, and this was about 3-4 years ago. And I was part of that bill, where the mental health part I had written, and that bill was passed, but actually on paper it was never implemented. And that is the worst part of it, that this is what's happening because of our people not understanding that they are playing havoc with patients' life. The media is actually is reaching every child, every elderly person, every widow, every person at home, and it has an effect and it has a cost. So the only advice I can give you at this time is that you must control what you let your children watch, let your home people watch. Control it, reduce it, and you must do that. That is the only way that you can prevent it at this time. The law is there, the bill is there, it's with PEMRA and everything, but you know the way things are, and you know the way the channels are. If you look at the channels, you think that there's nothing good happening in this country, which is absolutely untrue. You think that everybody is a thief and a robber. You cannot find one single decent person you can rely on. And again, that's not true. We have a lot of decent people. We have a lot of hardworking people. We have a lot of people on the background who never come on the media scene, and they are working for this country, and they are the people who are the backbone of this country. We don't know them, we don't see them, we don't know their names, but they are the people who are making the system running. So let us not be pessimistic about it. Let us understand that what we see on TV is just a small part of a bad crowd, which is being shown to us, and they don't reflect the face of Pakistan.
Yes, sir. Exactly. Our society is actually one of the most negative ones, and there's even a question about it by Dr. Hira Amir. She's asking, what is your take on the positive and negative environment having a direct effect on mental health, and how can we deal with that in our society, which is really negative?
Absolutely. I can say that let us first work on ourselves. Let us be positive ourselves. Let us say good things. Let us say, let us not indulge in criticism, negativity, negative comments. Let's make a promise today that from today, I will not say anything bad. I will not put in any bad social media message, negative comment, or anything else. I will always say good things. I will praise my colleagues, my friends, people who have done a lot of work, who have, no matter what the situation, let us make a commitment today that I, at my level, will do this. I, at my level, will always be positive about everything, no matter what, no matter how distressed I'm feeling. So if we make it a change in ourselves, the society will automatically change. And I have given you a few examples, and I personally in the groups always send good messages. So last week I extended the contract of two assistant professors of medicine, and when I interviewed them, I found them of international standard. So within 3 hours after the panel was over, I put in a message on all the groups that I have interviewed without naming them, two of our assistant professors for an extension of their contracts. And I'm pleased and proud to say that I have never seen such brilliant work being done by them in terms of research, academics, clinician for the last 1 year. And again, that is the kind of message that we need to give to everyone.
Yes, sir, you're absolutely right. Another question that we have is, how should we deal with bereavement due to COVID while also working effectively in the COVID ward?
So, what was the first part of the question? How?
How should we deal with bereavement due to COVID?
No, I still, there's some problem with the voice. I can't understand what was the first part?
I'm sorry. It says, how should we deal with the bereavement due to COVID while
Oh,
also
okay.
working effectively?
Yes. Okay. Now, bereavement is a big topic on its own. In relation to COVID, it's a particularly stressful for the families. Now, the person is in the COVID ward. The family has no interaction or seen him for the last maybe 2 3 weeks when he's been seriously sick. Then quietly he dies and his body is wrapped up, put in a coffin, which is closed and sent for burial. So the person who is bereaved, his family, his wife, his father, his mother, whoever, are unable to go through the normal healing rituals that all of us go through. And so they are likely to suffer from abnormal grief reaction. One is a normal grief reaction and one is an abnormal grief reaction. So there is a high possibility of that. So the answer to that is that the doctor who is dealing with all the death of the person must explain to the family the importance of what they are doing and why it is needed and why is it important for the safety of all the members. And within the boundary limits, all the rituals can be carried out. The burial can be carried out without touching and all that. And afterwards, the prayers and the whatever are your culture or my culture suggests that you pray after, have a ceremony after 3 days or whatever. You keep on doing that, and you keep on remembering the person in good deeds and good words, and you keep on praying for his soul, and you keep on doing something that will be giving a sadqa in his favor so that it is useful to him. So these are the kind of healing rituals for the family that they must do to understand that they have lost this one, but he has gone off, but we can do something for him to make him have a better life in the afterlife. So the family needs to be counseled by the doctor who is dealing with the process of the handing over of the body, and that will take away the brunt of the grievement reaction. Now, if the person, the family member, say it's a spouse or a brother or a parent, is still grieving after 2 months, then that's an abnormal grief reaction by definition. Abnormal grief reaction. One is a normal grief reaction, all of it go through. It lasts for about 6 weeks and eventually everybody recovers, and it has different phases. But if it continues after 6 weeks and 2 months, then that's an abnormal grief reaction, and the person death has not been accepted, and then he needs professional help.
Okay, sir. Thank you so much. There's another question by Eamon Haver. How do we differentiate between having an optimistic outlook and toxic positivity?
Right. I told you that every person is different. Every person's personality is different. So all of us are made of a combination of different traits. Nobody is perfect. So we have some positive sides, we have some negative sides, we have some bad habits, we have some good habits. Now, this is the time I keep on mentioning to suppress our toxic side. All of us have it. There's no question about that. So it is very important to suppress and keep suppressed our toxic initiatives, thoughts, behaviors for the time being, and bring up the positive side as much as possible. Very, very important, very crucial for us health professionals. We must do that if we want to come out of this without a scar and successfully. So please let us suppress our toxic influences, and let us keep our positivity up and optimism up, and general spreading of well-being and goodness around us up. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Another question we have is, in what way can our colleagues, other healthcare professionals, and the administration support each other if one of the healthcare professional gets infected and has to isolate themselves in context with person's work, family, and personal life?
Absolutely. This is something which really came up many times in PIMS when the doctor got affected, and there were a lot of initially nobody knew what to do, how to tell them what to do. Then we came up with a policy where we would support them and give them support, and we give them their family support. So it's all about talking and calming and relaxing and doing the right things. So one is the medical side of it, where the person has to be isolated, he or she has to be kept away from the family. He or she has to be made sure that he or she does not pass on the infection. Second, then he or she has to be provided with all the basic foods and items and clothes and everything else. And then third is the distress of the family and his or her distress, that has to be addressed, and that has to be calmed down, and that the family has to let it out, and they have to speak and discuss with the proper doctors that are concerned with the specialty, and have the basic knowledge to help them.
Thank you, sir. I know we've asked this question from Brig and Mowaddat, but I also wanted to know your opinion about this. Are there any recommendations for doctors who have worked or working in COVID wards? You have answered that, but how do we deal with mental stress that comes with dealing with the immense loss of life, especially when you're dealing with a patient that is a relative of yours, maybe, or someone, a close friend, a close family member? And how can you deal with this feeling in the future while you're still working and cannot go on leave?
Right. Actually, your voice is not clear. What I understand is that you're asking that if somebody close to me has suffered from corona, is that what you're asking me? What should I do?
Yes, sir. Basically, if I'm working in the ICU ward and I'm treating a patient who also maybe happens to be a family member or a close friend, and they pass away. So how do I deal with that while constantly working and taking care of other patients as well? Because I will not be able to take leave or maybe express my emotions. I won't have time to do that. So how can we do that? Like, how can we get help, basically?
Absolutely. Yes. I think it's a very important, and it's a scenario which has actually happened. This is not a bookish scenario of a book. It has actually happened, where the person has been dealing with his or her relatives in the COVID isolation wards, in the ICU, and he or she has felt the emotions that a family can feel for somebody who is seriously ill in front of them. Actually, this is where our professionalism comes in. We are trained to be professionals, and when we come to our work, we know that we have to help ABC regardless of he's our relative or friend or whoever he is. So if we are a true professional, we will deal with it professionally, and we will understand it professionally. So what I, as a person working in that ward, can do for my relative is to help them as much as I can, as I would for the other patients. And then even better, I would understand that the damage is so much, the lungs have been damaged so much that he or she will not survive. So who else to understand the process than me? Think about the relatives who are outside, who haven't seen the patient for 3 4 weeks, and they are waiting outside in the heat and PIMS and waiting. Please kuch bata dein, please kuch samjha dein, what's going on. But you are there, actually you are seeing and you know what's going on. You've seen the CT scan, you've seen the lung picture, and you know what's going on. And you are still in a better position than the relative who has no knowledge of what's going on behind the door and what is happening. And you as a relative in Pakistan are always skeptical कि पता नहीं अंदर क्या कर रहे हैं, उसका ठीक से ख्याल भी रख रहे हैं या नहीं, which is again a normal stress reaction. So what I'm trying to tell you is that because you are actually there and you're looking after your relative or friend, you have a better understanding as a professional that he or she is not well and he or she is not going to survive. And believe me, when we had a chat with our infectious diseases doctors, they would be able to tell कि ये survive करेगा ये नहीं करेगा, because of the extent of lung damage that has happened. And that was the yardstick of the corona fatality, that the lung was affected and the CT scan clearly showed the fibrosis and everything else. So probably he or she is in a better position to understand that. And you said about day off or absolutely genuine request. We have been told that our we are not allowed leave. But if I recommend that this doctor is under distress and needs a week off, they will give it. So he or she, if she needs time out, needs some time to go home and rest and think, no problem about that. Absolutely justifiable and understandable.
Thank you so much, sir. We just have like one last question. Do you have any advice for young people who are trying to bring about a change in their families, their eating and lifestyle habits, especially elder people who refuse to let go of unhealthy mindsets, particularly regarding food? And like, how do we set a healthy boundary while everyone stays at home and works at home? So there are
Okay,
two questions. Yes.
more than 30% of the population of Pakistan is of young age group. One of the reasons why the corona has not been as bad as in Italy is because our elderly population is tiny as compared to Italy, and we have a very large chunk of young population. This young population have, being in a very high population rate is very rare in the history of countries. But it's a tremendous opportunity for a country to develop its young people so that they can have a position and progress of the country. So, Mowaddat said they should all think about not government jobs but entrepreneurship. And that is the kind of thing that we want our young people to do. Think positive, plan ahead, plan what they want to do, plan what they can do, plan everything, their education, their success, their everything. And at the same time, control the bad habits that they might have. And you spoke specifically about food. And unfortunately, food is very important in our lives. If we want to say go out to have a good time, we only think about one thing, and that is to go to the local restaurant and have some food. So food is very important to us, but we are not talking about the food. We are talking about what we are actually eating, and this is the time to worry about it and make sure that we eating the right kind of foods, and we are eating the vegetables and the fruits and the salads, and we are avoiding the sugars and the salt and the meats, and we are eating healthy. So the young people can take that initiative, and they can actually help their advise the home environment to have these foods available so that everybody can share.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you for your time, sir. It was an amazing presentation and question answer sessions as well. With your permission, I would now like to conclude the question answer session.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much. This concludes our session for tonight. I would like to thank all the professors for joining us, giving us their valuable time and valuable insights. This has been one of the best sessions that I've had, I think, and especially very insightful and useful for physicians like us who've been dealing with the pandemic head on. Um, I would also like to thank the participants for joining us. We hope that you've gained as much as we have through this session. Please do not forget to fill the feedback forms, as certificates will be distributed based on that. Thank you, Mavish, for being an amazing co-host, and the rest of the team for helping us conduct this session from the background. I would like to now invite Mavish back to talk about our upcoming session for tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Maham. It was wonderful hosting with you as well. Don't forget to join us tomorrow for tomorrow's session at the same time, same virtual space. We will be discussing public health aspects of COVID. Our speakers include Dr. Faisal Khan from USA and Dr. Ahmed Abdullah. Both are experts in the field of public health and community medicine. Thank you to our speakers for sharing such beneficial information and taking out so much of their valuable time to increase our knowledge. I have always been an advocate of spreading awareness about the severity of mental health and breaking the taboo which is surrounded by it. So I personally really enjoyed this session, as most of us, like 100% of us did. Thank you so much to all the participants for tuning in. Thank you, Professor Samia, for all your efforts. She is our patron as well as our advisor for the academic team, and this series would not have been possible without her. Thank you, Dr. Saba Akhtar, co-founder of VFP and also the advisor of academic team. She has been the backbone of our team, and again, this would not have been possible without her. Thank you, Mr. Iftikhar Yazdani, who is the CEO of Rahe Kamar and a partner of VFP. His company provides voluntary IT services for this noble cause, and he has been the man who has been behind us and making the entire webinar possible, helping us with our connections and everything. Thank you, Dr. Rabil Tariq, co-founder of VFP, Ms. Tuba Said, Ms. Pinar Farooq, Dr. Muhammad Ali Butt, and many others for supporting us throughout the session. Thank you on behalf of Team VFP, Team Yardim, and Team RMU. Allah Hafiz.
Allah Hafiz.